You're listening to The Pete Sheppard Show.
Oh, it's good to be back.
Number 4. The Miami Hurricanes leading the ACC. They have snatched victory from the jaws of defeat on multiple occasions. They are ranked 4. They would be seeded 3rd.
And I think when you look at Miami, I think Cam Ward is going to win the Heisman Trophy. He's been that good throughout this college football season, but he has to be because he's got to make up for some of the deficiencies on this team. Defensively, I still have questions about them. Running the football, can they do it consistently? But Cam Ward covers up for a multitude of sins for that team, and I would not want to face him because he's been the best quarterback in the country.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Don't give me these election polls. I care about one poll and one poll only. The college football playoff rankings that came out last night. As many of you texted me during the night from 7 o'clock on about how you felt about it. Yes, lots of people paying attention to it. There's that presidential election thing that was going on as well. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Pete Sheppard Show here on the Coastal Sports Network. As always, thanks for checking us out across the video platform. Always Monday through Friday, usually 7 to 10 a.m. Follow me on Twitter, X at PShep326, on Facebook, SR1029thegame.com, Ion TV, CSN Florida, Rumble, Spotify, Kick, LinkedIn, Twitch, YouTube, and as always, you can call or text the show, 727-858-6650. Yes, here is my president. Just as good as anybody else, Eric Cartman. Meanwhile, Ed, good morning, everybody. Yes, in case you're just waking up, President-elect Trump has won. The last I saw, 276 to 223. And that's all I'm saying about anything. It's all over. No more commercials that hog up the airwaves about this candidate or that candidate, local, regional, national, amendment this, amendment that, amend this. Lots to discuss, though, with the poll that most people on this show want to talk about, which is college football playoff rankings that were released last night. No huge surprises, and no real big head scratchers. We'll get into we'll break it all down. I do want to say this quickly, weather-wise, because it kind of snuck up on us a little bit, and that's Hurricane Rafael, which is about to pass over the northwest part of Cuba. And thankfully, miss us here in Florida is going to take a significant turn to the west. But that was a little bastard of a storm that kind of popped up out of nowhere. I was watching it earlier in the week, didn't really think anything of it, but it came a Cat 1. It's going to be a Cat 2 hurricane, but it is going to miss us. We may see it's going to be 200 miles offshore in a very short period of time here. It might catch a little remnants, a shower here, a shower there of it, but it is going that away, southwest and about 200 miles offshore. So that's a good thing. Even though hurricane season technically ended, that little son of a gun snuck up on us a little bit, but our friends in Havana, hello. I know we have people in Cuba that do listen. Hopefully they're okay, 90-mile-an-hour winds. But thank goodness that's gone. Lots to talk about today. The NFL trade deadline recap. And I'm sorry, Cowboy fans. You're going to take the place of the Jets this week for me. You have to. I don't understand, although I should not be surprised at everything that organization does. Everything. We'll get into it. Because, boy, are they getting ripped all over the country. And you'll hear Jerry Jones from 105.3, The Fan, from yesterday on his local show out there. I don't get it. I don't understand what the Cowboys did yesterday. I don't, you make a move like that, maybe wasn't but you don't trade away assets because your salary cap is a mess next year. They're going to be forced to sign Micah Parsons. There's a whole shit list of things that are wrong with the Dallas Cowboys. However, staying in the division, the Washington Commanders made a great trade yesterday, which we will get into. Are the Washington Commanders and the Detroit Lions getting enough respect? It really is unbelievable. Arguably, two of the best teams in the NFC. Detroit could be the best team, top to bottom, in all of the NFL. And Washington is not being taken seriously. They should be, because that is a really, really good football team. And people are still picking the Eagles to get further than the Commanders. I understand that. Rookie quarterback, new coach on the team, blah, blah, blah. I understand all that. We'll get into it, find out your thoughts about it as well. Joel Embiid suspended, as I told you he would be, for 3 games for shoving the columnist, and it's inevitable that it's going to happen. Not sure when he's even going to be able to play, but once he's able to play, he's going to be suspended for 3 games as well. Tonight, the Boston Celtics will clobber the Golden State Warriors, and Jason Tatum is going to go off, I believe, for over 40 and maybe 50. I think he is going to bring the pain to Steve Kerr and the Golden State Warriors. And I'll tell you right now, you can watch it live on ESPN at 7:30. As we say good morning to the legendary, even though he texted me this morning telling me I won the presidency and he was vice president, which I appreciate. And my dog Luna won. My dog Luna won Secretary of State, and Lady Lane, and Dynamic Debbie, I think, should share Speaker of the House. So with that, we say, buenos dias, senor. Good morning.
Buenos dias. Yes, it's a good day to be alive, as it is every single day, not just because all this stuff is over. And then, yeah, you're right. No more ads. Holy crappies. There was enough ads, I think, to last a freaking lifetime, but everybody knows that.
They were going on until 7 o'clock last night, till the polls closed. It was like, is anybody like listening to this stuff or at the poll? By the way, I want to thank where I went to vote yesterday in the Gateway community of Gateway area at the Summit Church. Huge place, very well organized, excellent. Even though for some reason my old address actually was on when they went to, they scanned my license and everything, and now that I'm in Fort Myers and not Benita Springs. Anyway, it was a little, I don't know. I thought it was. Anyway, they fixed it in like 2 minutes. It was fantastic. And then we're very well organized, no big lines or anything like that. I see some of the huge lines that are out there last night, and some, not only suburban, but rural areas. It's crazy. I had no line. Easy peasy. Was done. Went yesterday, walked Luna, then went to vote, and was, done in, it's only 5 minutes from my house where I had to drive, so that was pretty cool. No long lines, nothing, easy peasy. How about you?
No, it was, we decided to vote early, so we voted early last week.
Smart.
Yeah, and it was a good way to do it. Normally, I've always, by rule of thumb, I've always done it on the election day. It's just one of those things, it's historic, so on and so forth. But we wanted to make sure that the votes counted, and so we didn't want any shenanigans, as everybody else too, not just me, but everybody. Nobody wanted shenanigans. But hey, it's Trump president-elect 47 with Vance being the vice president-elect. And listen, people spoke, and that's about it. So now we move on to bigger and better things
from everybody, and it looks like the Republicans are going to control the Senate too. The House is still up for grabs, and that concludes my political commentary for the day. Just hope everybody is nice to each other, and
as they should be.
That's as they should be. But it's already started on some social media, and social media anyway is a cesspool of ridiculousness, and we use it because of the show and because of sports, and I use it for information. But Twitter, if I wasn't doing this show, I would be off it. It is just, it really, some of it is just laughable about everything. It's just, it really is, and even politics aside, it's quite funny. However, it does provide entertainment for this show with some of the sports cuts they were going to play. It was a local Dallas Cowboys show. Holy God, the Cowboys are getting destroyed. But before we get into that, Angel, if we could, first story on ESPN's page or about the college football playoff. I played a little bit of it going into the show. I want to play the video. You're probably going to have to play a commercial here. Or it's going to be, just go through the 30-second commercial. And it's the boys last night breaking down the college football playoff rankings. It's only 90 seconds, but it's cool to see it. And then we'll break it all down for you as well. Tell you what the matchups would be. I find this stuff so fascinating. It's the first story, Angel, right on ESPN's webpage. Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, Miami, top of the first college football playoff rankings. And then,
all right.
Yep, you're probably going to have to go through a commercial. So as expected, Oregon, number 1. Georgia, number 2. Miami, number 3. And BYU right now, number 4. So that's because they're the big group of 5, Big 12. They're leading that right now. So we'll get into all what would be all the matchups and all that stuff coming up after we show you the video. In case you missed it last night at 7 o'clock, if you were out voting or watching the election on TV or whatever you were doing, here's how the boys broke it down last night. Reese Davis and company, Booger McFarland, McElroy, and them. Okay, here we go.
Number 4. The Miami Hurricanes leading the ACC. They have snatched victory from the jaws of defeat on multiple occasions. They are ranked 4. They would be seeded 3rd.
And I think when you look at Miami, I think Cam Ward is going to win the Heisman Trophy. He's been that good throughout this college football season, but he has to be because he's got to make up for some of the deficiencies on this team. Defensively, I still have questions about them. Running the football, can they do it consistently? But Cam Ward covers up for a multitude of sins for that team, and I would not want to face him because he's been the best quarterback in the country at making plays down the stretch for his team.
How about last year? I think they were 1-4 in one-possession games.
Yes.
This year they've won 3 of them, and Duke Saturday wasn't a one-possession game, but it was a 1-point game in the fourth quarter before.
At a certain point.
But yeah, before here's Miami's whole philosophy. We have Cam Ward, and you don't.
Yep.
Yes.
And
It works.
it has worked perfectly. Ranked number 3. The Georgia Bulldogs. So Georgia is behind the 2 Big Ten teams. Georgia would be seeded 2nd as the leaders in the SEC if they wind up there and ultimately win the conference. Big game in Ole Miss. Big game coming at home against Tennessee after that. And then the top 2 teams, it's pretty easy. Ohio State is number 2. They would host Boise State to start. Again, this is worth pointing out. Ohio State ranked number 2, but because they would not be a conference champion in this projection, can't be seated in the top 4, that would push them down to the spot that Joey said a couple of weeks ago that would be coveted. And, of course, the number 1 team in the land, the team that beat Ohio State by a single point, the Oregon Ducks.
All right, there you have it. Reese Davis,
The top
Joey
of the
Galloway,
rankings right
Booger
now. You have
McFarland.
Oregon, Ohio State.
And,
They played
actually,
that great.
let's keep can we keep this right there, Angel? That's actually good that you did that. Here is Michigan's AD, who is chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee, and he and Reese Davis had a nice conversation afterwards. And then I'll get to my thoughts and Angel's thoughts and give you the whole top 25 and give you the matchups that would take place if College Football Playoff started today.
The top of the rankings right now, you have Oregon, Ohio State. They played that great game. What separated Ohio State from Georgia at number 3?
Well, they both had great wins in terms of on the road, Ohio State against Penn State this week, Georgia at Texas. But what we felt is in terms of the losses they had, Ohio State lost to number 1 Oregon by 1, and Georgia lost at Alabama, who's ranked number 11. And so that was really the difference. I mean, we're splitting hairs in terms of looking at 2 great teams.
Okay, so that would indicate, though, that a little bit more in this particular case was put on the resume as opposed to maybe the fact that Georgia has had some moments this year. Still, I mean, look, they're a great team, but had some moments where they've sort of been fits and starts and had some problems. What emphasis was placed on that?
Well, we look at all the games, Reese. I mean, there was a lot of thorough discussion about both teams and their performances on the field. And so you're right. I mean, those things we took into consideration as a part of the discussion. And ultimately, the vote, when it came out, Ohio State was ranked number 2 and Georgia was 3.
All right, and I forget, what's it? Was Conrad Manuel is his name, right? The chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee. I meant to write that down today, and I forgot. But yeah, interesting stuff. And once again, though, I mean, I'm glad Reese Davis asked the question about, Georgia struggled with Kentucky. There's been other teams that have had struggles, and the committee keeps saying, and they keep trying to imply that blowing teams out or winning by a certain percentage or covering doesn't make a difference. And I'm telling you, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. That's why you see teams, doesn't matter who they are, big wins at the beginning of the season, win by 30, 40, sometimes 50 points. They're going to keep pounding and pounding, especially now, because the final score matters to the committee. They can squawk all they want about it, but it absolutely makes a difference. If we're looking at just the whole top 25, from 25 to 1, Army comes in at number 25. They're 8-0. Still would like to see them a little bit higher. Missouri stays in at number 24, and this is the college football playoff rankings, not the AP or the college or the coaches poll. Clemson is at number 23 at 6-2. Louisville is at number 22. There's beat Clemson in South Carolina 6-3. Washington State is 7-1. They're at 21. Colorado is there at number 20 at 6-2. And there is actually a scenario if they win out and get a little bit of help or a lot of help, they could make the college football playoff. I would throw up. Number 19, Kansas State. 18 is Pitt. 17 is Iowa State. 16 is Ole Miss. 15 is LSU. They are home. Can't stress enough. 11-0 under Brian Kelly. The Tigers are at night in Death Valley, and that's where they play Alabama this week. And Alabama still, last I checked, is a 3-point favorite. My goodness. Texas A&M is ahead of LSU. They're at 14 at 7-2. SMU is 8-1. Boise State is the number 12 seed, so they would be in. Alabama is 11. Believe they're the only two-loss team in the college football playoff rankings right now is Alabama. Notre Dame is 7-1. And I guess the Northern Illinois loss doesn't mean a whole hell of beans right now, which I find really, really interesting. But you got to believe that if it was anybody but Notre Dame and it lost to Northern Illinois with a 7-1 record, and I know they have some good wins, but it's whatever. It is Notre Dame. BYU 8-0 in at number 9, but also the number for they're ranked 9th, but they are the 4th seed because of the group of 5. Because of the Big 12, because they're leading the conference. Indiana comes in as the 8th seed. They are 9-0. We'll get to that. And they're a good football team, but you look at the schedule and makes you. We'll see. But they are a solid football team. Tennessee is in at number 7. Penn State 6th, and then the top 5: Texas, Miami, Georgia, Ohio State, and Oregon. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's not how the college football playoff rank. If they were to begin today, it would look like this. The first round matchups on campus would be Boise State, the 12 seed, at number 5, Ohio State, and then the winner would play BYU. Now again, this is just for this week. We know it's going to change, but this is kind of fun. I love doing this stuff. Then the 9-8 matchup, the Indiana Hoosiers at 9 would be at Tennessee at Neyland Stadium. And the winner of that one would play Oregon. Then you'd have number 11, Alabama, at number 6, Texas. And the winner would play the Miami Hurricanes. Interesting stuff there. And then the 10-7 matchup, Notre Dame would be at Penn State. So you know Notre Dame's going to win because James Franklin can't beat anybody that's good. Unfortunately, the winner of that one would play at number 2, Georgia. So according to the committee last night, basically the last two in, Alabama at 6-2, and their game against Alabama is that's it. It's going to be like a playoff game because if they're not getting in with 3 losses. Not getting in with 3 losses, and I do think they are going to lose at LSU. There's still 23 teams, by the way, with at least a 20% chance of finishing the season with 2 or fewer losses, and that includes Alabama. But if they lose with 3, they're done. But actually, they would still have, according to ESPN Analytics, have a 14% chance, even if they lose. It's crazy. Boise State is the number 12 seed. They're one of the 5 highest-ranked conference champions on Selection Day. They'll be in the playoff, but they have to get there. If they don't, that could open the door for Army, which is the only other Group of 5 team ranked this week. So Boise State has the best chance to reach a playoff of any Group of 5 team, almost 70%. The first 4 out right now, anyway, and this can change also. SMU, their toughest remaining game is November 23rd at Virginia. They're 8-1. Texas A&M is 7-2. Well, SMU's best win clobbering Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago on November 2nd, or last week, 48-25, and the toughest remaining game is at Virginia on November 23rd. Texas A&M is 7-2. Their best win was home against LSU, 38-23. That was back in late October, and their toughest test still is right at the end of the season, which should be a doozy when they play Texas. That is going to be something. And if the Aggies run the table and beat Texas, they could have a case as a 2-loss team, depending on what happens around the rest of the country. They'd also have a head-to-head win against the Longhorns with an identical 2-loss record. That could be the difference in an at-large spot, and there is the head-to-head loss against Notre Dame to consider as well. Meanwhile, LSU is 6-2. I think they're going to make the biggest case here. Their best win was home against Ole Miss, 29-26 in overtime. And the toughest remaining game, as we've been talking about, is Saturday at Alabama. If LSU loses, I mean, they dropped to 10%. I can't even believe it's that high. That'd be 3-loss team. They really need to win. Had they beaten USC, remember that beginning of the season where they could not get out of their own way in the red zone, very similar to Penn State against Ohio State on last Saturday. LSU... They were a play away from being 7-1 instead of 6-2. That USC game could really come back and bite them in the butt. Mississippi is 7-2. Their best win at South Carolina, where they won 27-3. Their toughest remaining game is going to be this Saturday. They are home against Georgia, and watch out, Bulldogs. Watch out, Bulldogs in this one. Upset alert. I'm telling you, that's going to be a hell of a game. Iowa State, the next 4 out. Their best win is at Iowa, 20-19, and then home game. Well, you get the picture. But I love the college football play. This is so much fun than just doing the top 4, isn't it, Angel? I love it. I love the projections. I love that if the playoffs started today, just quickly. To recap, it would be Boise State at Ohio State, Indiana at Tennessee. Well, actually, Boise State at Ohio State, winner playing BYU. Indiana at Tennessee, winner would play Oregon. Alabama at Texas, winner would play the U. At Notre Dame at Penn State, the winner there would play Georgia. That's kind of fun. I love that stuff. Way better than political polls and projections.
What I would like is that no, it is really good. I like those rankings, the way he did it. What I would like is, and I know people, we mentioned at the top of the show as far as the other election that was going on, I would have loved to seen like a camera, because there's either somewhere in a dorm or somewhere in a library, like the kids are together, call them kids, but they're young adults.
Yeah.
They're together and they're probably looking at it just like, oh, we got robbed. Like it would just be fun to see like the natural reaction from it. But would it just again, hypothetically, so let's just say let's say Miami makes it, right, to the national championship game.
Yeah.
Would we hear the grumblings? Of course, Miami's there at the national championship game, blah, 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 blah. To me, like right now, I'm sorry. And if I piss off any other college team, Miami right now is destined to make it to the national championship. The rate that they've been playing, how they've come back throughout the season, how Cam Ward has led this team, that's to me like the one person. But then I'm wondering, could it be possibly Ohio or Georgia versus, again, this is all hypothetical, but could it be Ohio or Georgia versus Miami in the national championship, or am I stretching it too far?
No. I mean, there's so many possibilities. Again, we're right now we're looking at the ranking and looking at the playoff format, and it's going to change. It's not going to stay the way it is. We're doing it now. The way things stand. So if what would happen is if the 4 top seeds, according to this poll, win out,
right,
which would be again Oregon 1. Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Miami 3, and BYU 4. That would be it. So if the top 4 seeds won out, and they'd be, if BYU, say just for bleeps and giggles, beats Ohio State, and then or Ohio State beats BYU. Anyway, if the way it would play out, the top 4 seeds, if it was chalk, it would be Oregon versus BYU in the Final Four in one matchup, and then Miami versus Georgia in the other one. That's just today. And then the two winners would meet. So just say, I mean, it could be Miami versus Oregon, Miami versus BYU, or Georgia versus Oregon, or Georgia versus BYU. So that's the way, if it went chalk, that's what it would play out right now. So Miami would get Georgia in the semis, Oregon would get BYU in the other semifinal game. And we'll take it from there. See, all these teams have certain flaws in them. Certainly Miami's defensive backfield, there's no question about it. Too many chunk plays. But as Booger was saying in that clip that I played, they have Cam Ward and everybody else doesn't. And they have a bunch, as far as running the football, the only thing I'll disagree with, they run the football pretty consistently when they want to. I mean, they have an incredible, Martinez, a transfer of Oregon State, Fletcher. They have an excellent running game. I'm not worried about their offense at all. Their offense can light it up on anybody. It's just a question of, can they make enough stops to get to the national championship? So we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of football to be played. I still think nobody's given them enough respect, but that's okay. They want to talk about, Georgia, tough games against Kentucky and, Alabama with two losses and everything else. And BYU, I mean, you look at BYU, BYU has more significant wins than a lot of teams that are ranked ahead of them. Even though they are the Big 12 leader right now, and they would get it. But you look at, as an example, you look at some of these other teams. Say, for example, where was it? They got all these numbers. Okay. State of Indiana. On solid ground. Heather Dinich did this. Good stuff. So the Hoosiers are having a historic season. They're in position to make a run at the Big Ten title following their win via Michigan State, where they spotted Sparty 10 points and then obliterated them by scoring the next 47. But their strength of schedule, Angel, is 103. Number 103. Notre Dame has overcome its home loss to 4-loss now NIU. 4-loss now NIU. But they don't have much of any margin of error. So, yeah, if Notre Dame should lose at some point the rest of the way, they would be I think they'd be in a heap of trouble. But not taking away anything from Indiana, they can only do what they can do. The schedule is the schedule, but the schedule is ranked 103rd. So, as far as Colorado and Coach Deion Sanders making the playoffs, if they run the table, which they could, considering the Cyclones, Iowa State will play K-State in their regular season finale. The Buffaloes would face BYU in the Big 12 title game. And if Colorado wins the league, it is in the playoff. That's one of the biggest differences about the 12-team field. The pool of contenders run as deep as the teams that can still win their conference, and Colorado is right there. According to ESPN Analytics, Colorado favored in each of its remaining games by at least 50%. Colorado and Iowa State are also neck and neck to earn a spot in the Big 12 title game, with the Buffaloes at 36.5% and Iowa State at 36.4%. But top four seeds, as I said, Oregon, Georgia, Miami, and BYU in the college football playoff rankings. So there you have it. Thoughts on that? Love to hear from you at 727-858-6650 or any of our video platform message boards. Love to hear what you think about that. Going to take a quick break, and when we come back, lots of NFL news to tell you about. We'll recap the trade deadline from yesterday in the NFL. A couple of decent moves by some, head scratchers by others, and we will break it all down for you and let you hear some reaction from across the NFL. When the Pete Sheppard Show returns right here on the Coastal Sports Network.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Jimmy the Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our second location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak, our Maxwell Polish, now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu. Hey guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it gardenia. It's pronounced Chardonnay.
Bill Castanetti, Sports World in Saugus, Massachusetts, is New England's place to buy or sell the finest in sports memorabilia. For over 35 years, Sports World has offered the finest in sports collectibles. Last month, you might remember Tim Thomas, legendary Bruins goalie, returned on October 5th. What a turnout it was. And now a new event coming up. On Saturday, November 30th, it's Willie O'Ree, yes, the original Jackie Robinson of the National Hockey League. He'll be signing autographs to the public, $25 each. There'll be photos, pucks, and cards available. Phone orders are welcome. Just call 781-233-7222 for more information. Sports World in Saugus. Be there.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontp.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class, let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him in the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Awesome. Where were you
you, Jill? Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Don't spaz out because your team lost. Let Pete do it for you. Now, back to the Pete Sheppard Show.
Well, it's iffy, but it's extended period of time here, so I wouldn't dare make a prediction when it could be. It's likely we'll IR him, and so we'll see kind of how his rehab goes.
Huh? There's Jerry Jones talking about not making a prediction about Dak Prescott and his hamstring injury. He's going to be out a couple of weeks. Looks more like several weeks. Looking more and more. It's not official yet about going on IR. Boy, oh boy. Speaking of no authority at all, the Dallas Cowboys, and they are just getting clobbered all over the place. Good evening, good morning, and welcome back to the Pete Sheppard Show here on the 6th of November, the day after the election. It is Hump Day Wednesday. I'm already looking forward to tonight to watch Jason Tatum destroy. They don't even need anybody else. Just put Tatum out there alone against Golden State and watch him light them up. That's tonight at 7:30 on ESPN. But we are going to get into the NFL, and we already spent the first half hour going through the college football playoff rankings, which we can always value your opinion as well here on the Pete Sheppard Show across the video platform and across on the app at SR1029 The Game. And you can call in at 727-858-6650. We're going to get into the NFL trading deadline recap. Right now, some interesting moves yesterday, but also coming up later on today at 8:30, Bill Sparrows from the Boston Herald and the senior betting analyst from Bookies.com joins us for his weekly visit. We're going to reconnect with Mick Colagio because we didn't really get into a lot of hockey yesterday with the Bruins. We started getting into some old personal funny stories from our life together in radio, but we will get into that debacle of just when you think they get off the schneid, the Bruins, they played like dog poop last night. 3 power play goals, then an empty netter, and they fall to the Maple Leafs in Toronto 4-0. So they've been shut out again. It's like they ding dong. They either shut out teams or they get shut out. Very disturbing last night. So we'll talk with Mick about that, and then Mia O'Brien at 9:30. Coming up via telephone, she heads on to her weekly conference visit with Doug Peterson. So we will have all of that for you. We'll talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll talk about the college football playoff poll and everything else. And she was at the cocktail party last week in Jacksonville between Georgia and Florida. And find out the real story is if she got her Ruth Chris steak or what the food situation was for her, because you want me to be happy. So we have all that. Of course, Angel Martinez is in the house as well. I'm just going to play some of Jerry Jones stuff from yesterday. You've heard that one cut as we came back from break talking about Dak Prescott's hamstring. Here is more from Jerry Jones on Cooper Rush and Trey Lance.
Jerry, you guys are going with Cooper Rush. Was there significant thought to maybe going with Trey Lance and just seeing what you had there with the way that the record is right now?
Well, let's just don't dismiss the possibility of doing anything. And the going with has a past tense aspect to it that I wouldn't recognize. It's not impossible to incorporate some of the skills that we might get from both quarterbacks.
In order to make Trey, a guy who actually starts a game, would it take an injury to Cooper, or is there talk about it either way?
I wouldn't get into that, but obviously he's got to be front and center a lot because you're one play away from not having Cooper. So just that alone, much less there are things that we can do with him that I think can add punch to the offense.
All right. And here's more. Here's more from Jerry Jones. He has faith, Angel. He has faith despite being 3-5.
Well, I think that you don't see it in the 3 and 5. And you, of course, Bill always said, Parcells, you are what you are. But what you do see is a group that, because of its, again, a couple of rookies there in that offensive line, we see that getting better and not making those mistakes, period, pre-snaps or otherwise, penalties. But I see that as a potential upside going into the future. They'll play better. They do some things that are real impressive. I'm talking about our rookies there in the offensive line. And that, to me, when I look ahead, I see that improving. I think we can do some things. We're going to bring a receiver in more than likely today that we've really have thought a lot of and wanted to draft him. And so we're going to get a chance to get him.
He's got no touchdown catches.
I can see improvement, much less the players that we haven't had. Now, all the teams are dealing with injury, as we well know. But we've got some players that are right here, ready to come in, probably as early as this week, but certainly over the next 2 weeks that could really give this thing a different look. Plus, on defense, what Zim's trying to do, you've got another week under your belt. We'll get better at that. And so I look at all of that as a positive. There's no question that Dak's injury is a setback. And but we've seen Cooper do it. We know what we need to do relative to the strategies on the offense. We just need to come together and game by game use all of our players to the extent it helps us.
Okay, geek out moment by me. There in the original Star Trek series, there is a great episode called Mirror Mirror, and it is when the Enterprise, because of a ion electrical storm, the Enterprise gets hit while the captain and Aurora and others are on the planet below, with the Hulkins trying to negotiate crystals for the Enterprise, and they're a peaceful. Anyway. The lightning hits, and it's the parallel universe. Jerry Jones is in that parallel universe, and when they rematerialize in the transporter beam, it's like the Enterprise. There's an evil Enterprise, and then there's back to the Jerry Jones is like the Hulkins in that episode, and so he's the ion storm. He was in it. It's a parallel universe. I don't know what world we know about Jerry's world. I don't know what world he lives in. But it is not reality. And the Cowboys did a stupid thing yesterday by acquiring wide receiver Jonathan Mingo, who's got no touchdown. I'll give you his numbers for this year. He has, for the year, receiving 12 receptions, 121 yards, no touchdowns. But the Cowboys dealt for him yesterday, and they get wide receiver Jonathan Mingo and a 2025 7th-round pick from Carolina for a 2025 4th-rounder pick before the deadline. Again, he was a 2nd-round pick in 2023 out of Mississippi. Might have seen him play for Lane Kiffin. 12 receptions for 121 yards this season. He has one catch, uno, in the last 4 games. And there's only 2 games in his career with more than 4 catches.
Oh, boy. Exactly. By the way,
he's behind the 2024 first-round pick Xavier Leggetti, the undrafted rookie, Jalen Coker, the 2017 7th-round pick, and David Moore, despite the hamstring injury sustained by Adam Thielen and the trade of Deontay Johnson. Go ahead, Angel.
Jerry he has a text up there. You mentioned the Bruins earlier.
Yeah.
So he said, I'm glad I couldn't turn up the election results last night, Pete, because the Bruins would have brought me down.
Yeah, 3 power play goals and an empty netter started in the second period. I mean, they couldn't get out of their own way once again. We'll talk with Mick Colagio about it at 9:05. In the meantime, It's time to take a reality check. Jerry Jones is living in the parallel universe I told you about. If we could start to scroll down, Angel, on my Twitter page. And first up is going to be yesterday from Darren Orlovsky. It's NFL on ESPN. It's just a couple down, and he just goes off on the Cowboys on NFL and ESPN yesterday. This was like live around 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, right after the trade deadline.
Guys, there is no team that has less of pulse of their football team right now and organizationally than the Cowboys. And I'm being respectful to Jerry Jones and they should not have made a trade to acquire a player today. This is a team that right now, this season is done. It's not going to be a playoff run that they were expecting. They have a head coach on an expiring contract. Their quarterback is going on IR. He's going to miss the next 4 games, or likely, not officially. So that's 12 games into the season. This was a bad football team to begin with. They are cash-strapped next year already, and they're going to have to sign Micah Parsons. Last year, they traded a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance, who you would think would then be the quarterback that would play if Dak Prescott got hurt, but they're not. They're playing Cooper Rush. Now they take a 4th-round pick to trade for Jonathan Mingo, who, again, might end up being a solid player, but there could be a 4th-round receiver in next year's draft that you would have for 2 more years and at relatively similar production, at least expectation-wise.
Hey,
it makes no sense, man. Guys, there is no team that has less impulse of their
any
football
sense
team right
at all for all the reasons I just said. Now, if we could scroll down a couple more, Angel. Now, listen to this. This is on James Jones, who, he's Super Bowl champion. He's on the Packers radio network and everything else. This is like one of the Cowboys or one of those shows on QB Boom. Listen to the commentary by these guys about the Dallas Cowboys.
Dak quitting.
Oh,
hold on, James.
Wait, whoa. Say it with your chest.
I need some proof. I need some
evidence. Like tapped out? Like when you in a chokehold and they said,
if you just said Dak quit. And it's crazy because, like,
I've been there, though.
It ain't even, like, funny, though. Like, my man quitting on these dudes. I've had a hamstring plenty of times, and I'm back the next week. I'm not Tyreek Hill. It don't take no 4 weeks for you to heal from no hamstring. You're not Lamar Jackson. You're not Jalen Hurts. You're not running. Where are you running to? You're not running. 4 weeks. Basically put me on ice for 4 weeks, right? No fight, no nothing. Hey, man, I'll be back in 2 weeks. I'll be back in a week. This is a hamstring for a quarterback that's not explosive at the quarterback spot. They tried to hold me out. I said, who I'm running away from? I've been 4'5", 4'6". I'm going to stay 4'5", 4'6" with a bad hammy. So I'm going out here playing. Dak Prescott, with the way the season is going right now, we heard him on the sideline, what he said. Dak is quitting on these boys. You are not, is it off the bone or something? Because there's no way you're telling me that you're out 4 weeks with no answers, no nothing, no fight, no nothing for a hamstring, and you're a quarterback. There ain't no way. Drop back, get the ball out. Your hamstring don't got to be 100% at the quarterback spot. Dak Prescott is quitting on these boys, man. If I was on Dak's team and I seen him in the locker room, I would walk by him in the train.
Yeah, right. You're right. No, you're right.
Good to see you, dog. And keep pushing.
Good morning.
I know.
Like that. Yeah.
We know. We've been in the facility. We know when dudes is hurt and really can't go, and we know when dudes is messing around.
Yikes.
Yeah, I think I understand where he's coming from, Jerry, but I got to tell you, James Jones right there, it's hard to say that when you're not in the locker room. And to me, Dak Prescott, certainly has his faults and all that stuff, as that entire organization. But Angela, do you really think Dak Prescott, quote unquote, quit? I don't. I think he would be out there today if he could. So that's a dangerous game to play, speculating about guys quitting. You could say what you want about Dak Prescott. Does he strike you as the type of guy who's going to quit? I don't think so. It's a tad irresponsible for him to say that.
Well, if I have to pull out the homer side for a second, the Eagles fan will say yes, but no, it's kind of hard to say that Dak would. I don't think he's never done it in his career. I've seen Zeke Elliott do it for sure.
We saw last week when he missed 3 team meetings and didn't make the trip even to Atlanta.
Right. So to me, I don't know if Dak quit. And listen, I'm not trying to stick up for Cowboys fans because you guys are going through it just as much as everybody else.
No, you don't know. But I'm saying it's you're being rational about it. I think that was an unfair statement for him to say that he quit without being in the locker room or anything else. You could say a lot of things about the Cowboys. I'm not anywhere near saying Dak Prescott's not playing because he quit.
Yeah, I don't think he quit. I mean, I could be wrong. I guess we'll find out later on. But I don't see Dak would turn around especially after saying that obviously they're going to do well after his signing. But we see every time someone gets a signing, it never works out the way they're supposed to. But I just don't see where Dak would turn around and look at his team like, you know what, I'm out. Who was the one that what was it just a few weeks ago?
Well, Anthony Richardson's the one that tapped out.
Exactly.
And now that people saying, "Oh, there's an overreaction because they tapped out and he's been benched." Well, Joe Flacco was okay in the loss to Minnesota on Sunday night. There's this overreaction. I don't know where all this love has come from for Anthony Richardson. They were going through scenarios yesterday on ESPN. I've even heard on the NFL Network as well. And there's a lot of sympathy for Anthony Richardson, and I'm not sure why. The best player should play, and right now Joe Flacco is better than him. It's just that simple. The Cleveland Browns were finding that out, even though they lost this past weekend with Jameis, but they won the first game against the Ravens with Jameis Winston. But Jameis will get another chance. As far as when you start talking about teams quitting, players quitting, that to me is dangerous ground. I mean, sports dangerous ground, obviously, and I don't think Dak Prescott's a quitter. You can say what you want about the Cowboys, Jerry Jones, and they deserve to be criticized for a lot of the stuff they've done this year. But Dak Prescott being a quitter, I'm not seeing it, and I'm wondering how Cowboy fans are going to take to those comments.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. If Tim Barrington was watching, I would love to get Tim's take to see if he feels that Dak could quit on his team.
Yeah, he's one. I mean, there's tons of Cowboy fans out there. One of the trades that did work out yesterday, I thought was a great deal, was the Commanders, and they traded the Saints for cornerback Marshawn Lattimore. And yesterday, head coach Dan Quinn talked about it.
Let's take a moment to talk about the trade that you made. Marshawn Lattimore comes over. How does this guy fortify your back end?
Well, I think first, for Adam and his group, and you've heard us say it, like just we're going to keep competing, and in every way that we can. And this was another example of how to go do that. And so we love the toughness, his ability to play man-to-man and guard people. I had firsthand experience of, being on the other sideline against him during some years in Atlanta. And so for him to want to go battle, some of the guys that he's had to go and take on as a number one receiver, that's a big deal. And so if we had a chance to elevate who we are and how we would go about doing our business, we're going to do that. So we're really pumped to have him here. Ironically, he was, college teammates with some of the guys we have here, and Noah Brown and Terry McLaurin and some others. So it's been good to wait it out, go all the way through it. But, they'll go through the process tomorrow and hopefully pass the physical and do all the stuff needed. But we're really pumped, Pat, to add him to the crew.
Well, you just said something I think the listeners need to know. Your respect for Terry McLaurin is extremely high, and it should be. The guy is an incredible player, but even a better person/citizen. If he's endorsing him, that just kind of closes the deal. In my mind, if you went to him and he says he's the kind of guy that would be good here, and he knows what you're all about. He now knows what the Commanders are all about. I think that's an important piece when you're trying to figure it out for sure, to have a comfort level with the guy.
That's a really big deal, knowing that they fit in, they had history with them and what they stood for, and you knew you're hitting the right marks when all of a sudden you're getting, him and his future teammates, hey, can you send me his number? I want to reach out to him. So when people are reaching out to a player before they get here, that's respect. And that's the type of group that's happening here, Pat, which is fun to see, these guys digging in for one another. And, that's a cool thing to be a part of, and from my viewpoint, to see that happen.
All right, thanks to SiriusXM NFL Radio there. Pat Kerwin, one of the best in the business, and Jim Miller, I believe, is his partner. But that was Pat asking the questions to Dan Quinn. Good stuff there. So I want to thank them. And also before that, 105.3 The Fan in Dallas for the stuff about Jerry Jones, which I forgot to talk about earlier. So just kind of to recap, all the trades for this season, all of them, not just yesterday, all of them. You have Marshawn Lattimore, Washington, Devontae Adams, the Jets, DeAndre Hopkins to Kansas City, Amari Cooper, Buffalo, Deontay Johnson to Baltimore, Mike Williams to Pitt, Preston Smith to Pitt, Zadarius Smith to Detroit, a great pickup, absolute great pickup by the Lions, Khalil Davis, San Fran, Jonathan Mingo, useless, to Dallas. Josh Uche from my Patriots to Kansas City. Cam Robinson to Minnesota. Tre'Davious White to Baltimore. Baron Browning, Arizona. Cam Akers to Minnesota. Khalil Herbert to Cincinnati. Ernest Jones to Seattle. Roy Robertson Harris to Seattle. And Jerome Baker to Tennessee. So there's all your NFL, all the trades and all the trades that have happened so far this year. There's some other stuff going on in the NFL, some other sound I'm going to get to right now. This is interesting. What is going on in Chicago? DJ Moore addressed the fact that people are talking about Matt Eberflus if he's lost the team.
Wonder from the outside, has Matt Eberflus lost his football team? So I'll ask you, has Matt Eberflus lost his football team?
I want to say no. The message yesterday was that we know we 4-4 now. It's just like being 0-0, but you just gotta go out there and start stacking wins how we did, and that's the best thing we can do is win, and then let the chips fall how they fall after we do so.
Very interesting stuff, and they did not look good in their 29-9 loss to Arizona the other day. They're in trouble. Monte Teo, by the way, the Lions and GM Brad Holmes on adding Zadarius Smith to the Lions defense, and this was a great deal by Detroit.
Brad Holmes knows what he's doing. You know, that's been the thing since he's taken over as a general manager for the Detroit Lions in 2021, I believe it was. He's always been questioned. He was questioned in the 2023 draft when he drafted Jahmyr Gibbs and all of those guys. And his first 4 draft picks in that draft class, all Pro Bowl, all pro players. He's been questioned every step of the way. But this is, I think, from now, everybody, I think we should all agree that Brad Holmes, the general manager for the Detroit Lions, knows what he's doing when it comes to structuring and creating a team. And that pick and that signing of Smith to get some pressure on the other side where Aiden Hutchinson was, that's such a big pick, especially for trading away what he traded away, or I should say more importantly, not trading away the things that he didn't need to trade, and adding a good piece, a productive piece to a team that right now is looking like the best team in the NFL, regardless of record, in my opinion. So I like that pickup, and it's just going to add to the best show on TV on Sundays, on Thursday and Monday Night Football in the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, again, thanks to SiriusXM NFL Radio for that one as well. Before we go to break, Joey Burrow yesterday had to respond. I saw a little snippet of this, but apparently he was not happy, even though he threw for 5 touchdowns on Sunday in their big win. But he was scowling, and I don't know. He did address it yesterday.
I didn't see those. Okay. I looked upset.
It looked very angry on sidelines.
Maybe my demeanor could be a little better sometimes.
Is that just the state of kind of where y'all are at? I mean, you just know, like, you set up the game, you just kind of know where you want to go, you know what's at stake. Is that kind of just kind of a state of mind going into what y'all want to do this season?
Yeah, look, we played great on Sunday, but I'm not going to ignore when there's things that I feel like we could have done better. Maybe I could have not let my emotions show quite as much, but it's also something that I've tried to do more, and I know people in the locker room have wanted me to do a little more, whether good or bad, but I don't think, at least I can't show my emotion positively, and then when things don't go well, not let that be known as well. I could have handled it a little differently, but that's how I was feeling. It's a give and take. I know that.
All right, that goes on for another minute. All he had to say, instead of pedantic blathering for 2 minutes, is, look, it's an emotional game. You're going to see the good, the bad, and the ugly sometimes, and move on. That's all he had to say. It's an emotional game. I get it. We see people, players and coaches get upset all the time. Mike McCarthy had one of the best tablet spikes of all time, I thought, on Sunday after the fake punt. Was it the fake punt or the botched 4th down and 1? I can't remember, but it could have been both. But Mike McCarthy double whammied his tablet, bam, Emerald, bam, onto the ground. and smashing it to pieces, as Soup Nazi would say. If I know you wanted the on-war, I would have taken a hatchet and smashed it to pieces. He said that to Elaine, remember? Anyway, so, I mean, just, all right. So, this is the minutia sometimes. See, that to me, it's such a waste of reporters' times and others, because you have to sit there and talk about a scowl or this or that. It's an emotional game. I mean, it's just, and people want to make a big deal because he was scowling on a 5-touchdown performance by him. I don't know. It happens. It happens in every single game. If you really focus cameras on quarterbacks, especially, and coaches and other players, you would see it every single. I mean, we could have these conversations with every team every single Sunday in press conferences. Anyway, not a big deal to me because Joey Burrow was scowling for some reasons and didn't like some of the way things are going. He's a competitor. Penguin AZ says, buenos dias. Yes, buenos dias. Buongiorno. Hello, everybody. Good morning. All right, 1 hour in the books. When we come back at the bottom of the next hour, Bill Sparrows from the Boston Herald and senior betting analyst from bookies.com will join me, Michelangelo, at 9:05. We'll talk a Bruins debacle last night in Toronto, and then Mia O'Brien at 9:30 via telephone from 1010XL and Helmets and Heels, and she will talk to us about heading into the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they had another tough loss at Philadelphia to Angels-Eagles the other day. And we'll get her perspective on that, and also college football playoff rankings and how the cocktail party went between Georgia and Florida, and what accommodations she received when she was there last weekend. All part of the Pete Sheppard Show here on a Hump Day Wednesday on the Coastal Sports Network.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Jim and the Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our second location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak, our Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu. Hey guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it gardenia. It's pronounced Jardiniere.
Phil Castanetti, Sports World in Saugus, Massachusetts, is New England's place to buy or sell the finest in sports memorabilia. For over 35 years, Sports World has offered the finest in sports collectibles. Last month, you might remember Tim Thomas, legendary Bruins goalie, returned on October 5th. What a turnout it was. And now a new event coming up. On Saturday, November 30th, it's Willie O'Ree, yes, the original Jackie Robinson of the National Hockey League. He'll be signing autographs to the public, $25 each. There'll be photos, pucks, and cards available. Phone orders are welcome. Just call 781-233-7222 for more information. Sports World in Saugus. Be there.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontp.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, groan-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And, with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Okay, men, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. I know you won't, because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick, and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
The Pete Sheppard Show. It's fun for the whole family, if it's dysfunctional.
Is it nice to have Christian McCaffrey back on the field?
Oh, yeah. It's such an amazing feeling to see that 2-3 out there doing his extensive warm-up and, a million high knees he does before practice. It was great seeing him.
Right back here at the Pete Sheppard Show. It's Trent Williams of 49ers. Christian McCaffrey is back at practice yesterday, and we'll see if he's ready to go. The big fantasy football bust of the year by some. Very angry at Christian McCaffrey. Hasn't been able to play yet because of the injury sustained in the preseason. But Trent Williams, and we saw that video highlights of him yesterday. Trent Williams talking about Christian McCaffrey being back at practice. And I want you to hear the rest of the cut as well. Sometimes I get carried away with the music. Still can't control really the volume on everything. But here's more from Trent Williams.
Stupid question, but what could that do for this offense?
Offensive player of the year. Stupid. So, really could probably put him in any offense. It's going to make him better. So, obviously our offense is kind of tailor-made to him and some of his strengths. So, it's definitely going to be a tremendous lift for us.
All right, that's Trent Williams on the return of Christian McCaffrey to practice. We shall see if he's even able to go. My guess is probably not this weekend, but we shall see. Welcome back to the Pete Sheppard Show. Thanks for checking us out across the video platform today. And always on Twitter X, following me at PShep326, on Facebook, SR1029 The Game, SR1029TheGame.com, Ion TV, CSN Florida, Rumble, Kick, Spotify, LinkedIn, Twitch, YouTube, and call or text the show 727-858-62 888-866-6650. Angel and Martinez in the house as well. He's got his show, Martinez Company, coming up later today. In fact, a full slate of shows coming up today across the Coastal Sports Network. Senor Martinez?
It's Martinez Company coming up here after the Pete Sheppard Show at 10 a.m. or a little after that, depending on how the show runs this morning, as usual. Because listen, Pete,
we got to be on at 9:30. This is, Gabe usually goes long on Fridays, but that's okay. But no, we'll be out. You'll have plenty of time.
Listen,
we'll be out by 9:45.
Pish Posh Applesauce, the Pete Sheppard Show runs earlier later on. It doesn't matter. But it's always fun whenever it bleeds over. I have no worries whatsoever. But yeah, Pete. After that will be Martinez Company from 10 to 12. I believe Rich is still on the road with the Drive with Q. Hopefully he'll be back come next week. If not, maybe on Football Friday. It just all depends. He's been extremely busy with the boxing element. And then B's World for that'll be at 6 p.m. tonight. And then capping off the night, we'll be talking hoops with Coach Johnson, Coach Mack, and Ron Briscoe, formerly of Nike. They will be on from 8 to 9 p.m. You guys can watch all the entire shows here, of course, on SR1029thegame.com.
Can they do an update on every point Jason Tatum scores? I'm predicting 40 plus.
Sure.
So it'll be about 20 minutes in when they come on the air, and hopefully he has 25 of them by then.
It would be nice. It would be nice. I mean, listen, he mentioned, and I know we're not talking basketball yet, but I know he mentioned obviously that they're looking to possibly, and he didn't necessarily say run it back, but it is, and for all honesty purposes right now, early on in the season, it's really to be the best, you got to beat the Celtics. That's just it, period. They're looking tremendously good. And even Orlando Magic was a young team.
Yeah, this again, you bring back 11 of your top players and scorers. It's just re-sign everybody. There's no reason why they shouldn't be back in the NBA Finals. This is just, barring any major injuries. And again, they already had a significant one in Porzingis, but he's been out there moving around. He'll be back around Christmas time. But they won on the road again. They won back-to-back games on the road against Charlotte. They went into Atlanta the other night and won by 30. They are a juggernaut. The only team that got them so far was Indiana. And the Celtics came back from a 24-point deficit to take the lead and nearly pulled it out. But, they're not going to win every game, but they're going to win they're going to win about 65 games this year, something close to that. They should anyway. But tonight, the Steve Kerr revenge game takes place because of how disrespected, and I hate using that term, but it does apply here. Jason Tatum was disrespected at the Olympics, and I hope he takes it out on him tonight. It's going to be huge. Just don't try too hard. Let it flow. Let it come naturally. Just let it come naturally. Before we get to our NHL and NBA rundown from last night, I want to finish up here with some NFL stuff. On the Rich Eisen show yesterday, Tom Pelissero talks about which coaches are now on the hot seat, Angel.
All the teams that were kind of on that precipice of, all right, what are they going to do? They basically all lost yesterday. The Saints, the Raiders, who fired Luke Getsy late last night, they were certainly in that spot. Right now, Antonio Pierce is getting to remodel his own coaching staff, so there's nothing, pressing. He's in his first year. But certainly the Raiders are hoping and expecting that they're going to perform better than they have to this point in the season. Obviously, Jacksonville, we've been talking about that one throughout. Doug Peterson and everybody else knows that, they've got to win here down the stretch. And they nearly, pulled it off yesterday against the Eagles, against all odds. And there's a controversial call on that Saquon fumble that gets returned for a touchdown. And on a play where I'd put Trayvon Walker's touchdown return there, Rich, like top 10 athletic feats that I've seen by a defensive player running the ball back. That was like, play that guy at tight end or something. You may be able to have some success. But, the Jaguars are certainly on that list. There's going to continue to be speculation about Mike McCarthy in Dallas, but Jerry Jones, said it last night that, he likes what he sees from Mike. He knows what a good coach he is. He's good with him. If they don't, turn this around and make the playoffs, I think everybody involved, including Mike, would know, he's in a contract here. He's a guy who's probably not going to to be back in 2025. And by the way, I think that if Mike McCarthy's not back in Dallas, he will be a candidate for other jobs, potentially even the one in New Orleans, a place that he was coaching about 20 years ago and is going to need some type of an offensive upswing. I mean, there's a bunch of them, Rich. We've already, like you said, we've got 2 head coaching openings. We now have an offensive coordinator opening. There's a bunch more teams. I mean, what are there, 9 teams, I think, that have 2 wins right now? They're 2-6 or 2-7. That's a lot of teams that are kind of buried right now. And it'll be interesting to see over these next, 27 hours here, how many trades we get at the deadline, because the competition committee's concern with pushing back the deadline has always been the later you get, the more teams might fire sale. And then you have an inequity competitively in terms of some of the matchups the second half of the season. If there's mass sell-offs in different places, that's going to give people pause about potentially even pushing the trade deadline back another week, which is something the GM advisory committee has been pushing.
Well, again, from SiriusXM NFL, and obviously that was before the trade deadline yesterday, but interesting nevertheless. And speaking of the Cowboys, once again, they traded a 4th-round pick for Carolina Panthers wide receiver Jonathan Mingo. Mingo, 2nd-round pick in 2023 out of Ole Miss. 12 receptions for 121 yards this year and no touchdowns. Yesterday on the Pat McAfee show, they talked about it.
A wide receiver has been traded from Carolina to the Dallas Cowboys.
Cowboys.
That's right. Cowboys are making moves on this trade deadline day. They've agreed to terms for a 4th-round pick to get Jonathan Mingo, wide receiver out of the Panthers that we all knew, obviously, in his 2nd year out of Ole Miss. We knew he was on the trade block possibly, and we knew that he was a guy that would be worthy of a 4th-round pick, 9-year NFL vet, Darius J. Butler. That's the big conversation talking point here.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott obviously out for a few weeks with a hamstring, whether it's Cooper Rush, Trey Lance, whoever's going to be going forward. They got a tough schedule coming up. They're in a bad spot. You got a lot of people doing a lot of noise around the Cowboys and within the Cowboys. They trade for Mingo, another wide receiver. How do you feel about the move? Do you like them getting a weapon? And 4th-round pick is wild, D. But we got some trade comps here before you get to dive into the full breakdown. Here is what some wide receivers have been traded for over the last 2 weeks or so. Most notably, DeAndre Hopkins, who went bonkers last night for the Kansas City Chiefs. Devontae Adams went for a 4th, which could be conditional, I think, or a 3rd conditional down. Deontay Johnson goes for a 5th-rounder to the Baltimore Ravens, and then Jonathan Mingo goes for a 4th-rounder. A lot of people talking about 4th-rounder. Jerry overpaid this. How do you feel about the move, and is there any other trades that have happened that you want to dive in?
Yeah, the math's not really mathing here. Obviously, he's younger, only in his 2nd year, and he's probably a guy that I would assume Jerry liked or that staff, that front office liked coming out of school. Was a high draft pick, is a very talented guy. Obviously, we haven't seen him. We haven't seen him on the field, so only the people behind the scenes have seen how he works, how he's actually going to improve this roster. Obviously, Dallas needed to do something. Is this the move? I mean, we'll see. If this guy goes on to be a big-time player for the next couple of years, he'll look like a genius. But Jerry hasn't looked like a genius for quite some time.
It does feel like it's been a while.
Yeah.
30
So
years.
I'm not very
30 years.
optimistic right now with this move, but I am obviously hoping for the best for Mingo and over there at Cowboys. Obviously, they need a weapon outside of CD Lamb. That's been a conversation all year long.
Because he's still got years left on his rookie contract. So this isn't just like a, hey, for this year, which it seems like a lot of those other ones potentially were moves made for this year. Jerry's making this move for the future. They don't even know who the head coach is going to be.
Exactly. All right, that's gonna. We'll get back to some more NFL stuff in a little bit. Some more college football stuff. We went through the first hour, talked about the college football playoff rankings that have come out. Interesting stuff. If the playoffs started today, what would it be like? Maybe I'll go back over that again. But now I want to do an NHL and NBA rundown from last night. Buffalo and Ottawa last night, and the Sabres start the 3rd period with 2 goals in 16 seconds.
Greenway and the Sabres quick starts to periods would be nice. Habit to continue on with here. We're in the offensive zone here to start it off. Was Byram on the blue line, takes the shot. That one's right at the line. Scores! There it is, the quick start again. Buffalo Sabres with a 3-1 lead and back on the offense again, right in front. The puck is on the line or just ahead of it. Now it's in the net. Referee says we got a good goal. Tage Thompson crashed the net.
J.J. Paterka on the far side wastes no time throwing this one to the net. Tage Thompson's all over it in front, his face. He gets a good view of this.
Thanks again, MSG. Thanks, Dan, for that. Buffalo beats Ottawa by a score of 5-1. Toronto blanked the Bruins in Toronto 4-0. The Bruins sucked. Insert whatever you want there. They just sucked last night once again. After getting back-to-back shutouts all over the weekend against Philadelphia and Seattle, they get shut out yet again. I think it's the third time this season already. 3 power play goals they allow on special teams last night. Absolutely pathetic. And an empty netter. Toronto crushes the Bruins 4-0. We'll chat with Michelangelo coming up at 9:05 about that. Calgary, Montreal in a thriller.
Overtime with Backlund and Dvorak to start it off. Off the draw, Coronado is Backlund. Coronado overtime, shoots, scores! Matt Coronado's second is the overtime winner, and he ends it for Calgary.
The guys that are feeling it, right? You put Matt Coronado, he wins a puck battle from Nick Suzuki. Honestly, just steals the puck from him, stronger on the puck, and then just enters his own with that confidence. We've always known he's had a great shot, puts it perfectly in the elbow area of the goaltender Montembeault, and the Flames have a road victory. Just the strength that he showed to get the puck from Suzuki. That's what you're looking for from Matt Coronado. Now that he's doing it, he can convince himself he can play this hard every single night.
What a gutsy result by Calgary. The tying goal and the winner from Coronado.
Montreal loses 3-2 in overtime. I'm all broken up about it. Meanwhile, Carolina and Philadelphia, thrilling game. It's tied at 5, right? It's tied at 5, right? Until the last 31 seconds.
Natchez trying to work his way through. Natchez tries the short side. Hits the net. Back up for Orlov. 35 seconds left. Go Kaniemi. He's got real estate. Lets the shot go. Save pulls up. Rebound. Natchez. He scores! Marty Natchez is beyond hot. And with 29.3 seconds.
Let's just call it what it was. This entire shift from number 88, Marty Natchez, just oozed greatness. All the footwork that brings you out of your seat, it was all with urgency. Heightened urgency. You wore Philadelphia down. Heavy shot from Kotkaniemi with the Robinson net front.
That put them ahead 5-4. They added an empty netter. They win 6-4 over Angels, Philadelphia Flyers, and I love the combat oozes greatness. Islanders in Pittsburgh also in a thriller last night in the shootout.
Is his offside?
Yeah.
See if he tries to go there again.
Horvat 0 for 1 this season. Coming in, throws the snow up and one hand and tucked it through.
Oh my goodness! Wait.
He's playing it cool. I don't know if he meant to do that or if he got stuck, but what a goal.
And you know what? Maybe he did get stuck, and I keep saying, when you're just reactionary and not thinking about something, good things happen, and Nedeljkovic.
Yep, the Islanders go on to win 4-3 in a shootout. St. Louis beat Tampa Bay last night 3-2. The Lightning falls short there, but this Dylan Holloway, horrible scene last night.
At the Jay Bouwmeester situation, and there's that puck in the neck that we referenced, and then he skates down the ice and misses just narrowly an opportunity there, and everything seems quite normal. He's skating back towards his end. He starts to grab a little bit there, but right here, yeah, he starts to tilt his head.
And they have brought the stretcher out.
Yeah. Well, obviously, hoping for nothing but the best here for Dylan Holloway. And hope it's nothing as serious as we are watching right now. That's a tough sight.
Yeah, thanks to Bally Sports there with the call. And the only update I have is, of course, he left in the first period last night in a stretcher. Holloway did hit on the neck area. 2:37 remaining in the period, proceeded to finish his shift, as you heard, then continuing to participate in the play before skating to the bench under his own power. As play was stopped with $1:11 remaining for a high sticking penalty. It was later called off. Teammates started calling and gesturing for assistance. So my understanding is he was taken to the hospital, and I really don't know. What I saw recently was he's okay. He's okay. It was kind of a scary situation last night for the Blues. The LA Kings beat Minnesota 5-1. Winnipeg blanked Utah 3-0. Winnipeg is like 12-1. Hellebuck, the goalie out of the University of Lowell, UMass Lowell, unbelievable in that. Colorado doubled up Seattle 6-3. Vancouver over Anaheim 5-1. San Jose and Columbus also in a thriller.
Run sending it to Vanacek. Here's Zetterlund. He'll drop it for Wenberg. The big wide turn. Wenberg cuts his way in. Wenberg to the net. Wenberg scores! Alex Wenberg! Game winner in overtime!
Thanks to NBC Sports California for that call. Meanwhile, the only NBA news yesterday was Joel Embiid suspended 3 games for shoving columnists in the locker room. So there's that. All right, quick break. When we come back, Bill Sparrow's going to join me from the Boston Herald, a great columnist there, and from bookies.com. We'll talk a whole bunch of stuff going on today in the world of sports. All part of the Pete Sheppard Show here on the Coastal Sports Network.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Chicken and Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our 2nd location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak, our Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu. And guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it Gardenia. It's pronounced Chardonnay.
Phil Castanetti, Sports World in Saugus, Massachusetts, is New England's place to buy or sell the finest in sports memorabilia. For over 35 years, Sports World has offered the finest in sports collectibles. Last month, you might remember Tim Thomas, legendary Bruins goalie, returned on October 5th. What a turnout it was. And now a new event coming up. On Saturday, November 30th, it's Willie O'Ree. Yes, the original Jackie Robinson of the National Hockey League. He'll be signing autographs to the public, $25 each. There'll be photos, pucks, and cards available. Phone orders are welcome. Just call 781-233-7222 for more information. Sports World in Saugus. Be there.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding.
Whoa!
Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Don't spaz out because your team lost. Let Pete do it for you. Now, back to the Pete Sheppard Show.
Welcome back. It is the Pete Sheppard Show. It is a Hump Day Wednesday. Wow. And, man, there's so much going on today after the election, the college football playoff poll, which is the only poll I care about. And we already discussed that. But joining me for his weekly visit is Bill Sparrows from the Boston Herald and senior betting analyst from bookies.com. He's always on higher ground. Real quick, I want to get this in because I forgot to mention this before we went to break. Donald Trump winning the election could have an impact on sports, particularly the Jets, and this is all true. So if Woody Johnson returns as ambassador to the UK, he cannot maintain the day-to-day control of the Jets, which Jets fans are probably doing backwards about. So again, during Trump's last presidency, Woody's brother Christopher ran the team. So according to Connor Hughes, he touched base with a few, expected the same thing to happen again, although it's not finalized. Christopher Johnson is well respected by players and coaches for his authenticity, and those that have been talked to stress how much they feel he cares for them. Certainly made some mistakes first time around, but many feel he's learned from them and will be better prepared if given the opportunity again. Doesn't matter who coaches the Jets, who owns the Jets, it's the Jets. It is what it is. Good morning, William. How are you?
I'm okay, man. Happy Wednesday. There was, as we discussed last week, also speaking of the election, the sports betting bill in Missouri squeaked by a handful of votes. I think maybe 20,000. So
no hanging chads.
Sports betting will be legal in Missouri as of January 1st. They are the 39th state, or it is the 39th state. to have legal betting. It'll be online and retail, and you'll have the usual suspects licensed. There'll be licenses tied to the teams there, and the PGA and NASCAR. Very similar to North Carolina. I would expect a launch probably at the start of football season, because they're starting from ground zero there. They had to pass a constitutional amendment to legalize it. So they got to kind of build up the infrastructure. So I would look for, they have to launch by December 1st, but obviously they want to get up and running by the start of football season. So folks in Missouri will finally be able to bet on Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, finally, you don't have to do cross borders, right? To go
Yeah,
do
you
it.
can stay out of Illinois and Kansas. You don't want to go there.
So you think the app will be similar to the Hard Rock app down here in Florida? And the Hard Rock app down here keeps, they're improving. They're getting there more and more.
Oh, no, you're going to have all, it's going to be like Massachusetts. You're going to have a DraftKings, MGM, DraftKings and FanDuel.
Everything.
Pumped a significant amount of money into the campaign. They funded it. Caesars initially opposed it, because they thought it would hurt their land-based casino there, but they eventually got on board. So you'll have, like most states, North Carolina, Kentucky, New York, Massachusetts, you're going to have an offering of the typical usual suspects. And of course, for folks in Missouri or who want to set their VPNs for Missouri, come next September, they'll get the, if the Chiefs score 1 point, you win a $50 bonus bet type sign-up deals, like you get every other time a state launches. But, there were no states that legalized betting legislatively this year for the first time since 2018.
Why is that?
Well, I think the big reason was, all the low-hanging fruit was picked. And you had issues. And again, every state is, we've talked about this, but looking forward, I think you'll see it in Georgia and Texas this year. Because the lieutenant governor in Texas, as we've talked about, is the head of the Senate, Dan Patrick, and he doesn't do anything unless he has a 100% party line vote. And I don't know if there was enough shakeup in the Texas Senate, but since Trump won, there's a real chance that he may end up getting a job. And the Trump administration and his potential replacement would be a lot more amenable to cut a deal to get sports betting done in Texas, because there's so much, kind of throw weight behind it. With the Adelson owning the Mavericks and all the pro teams there behind it. Of course, maybe if the Cowboys keep this up, they may not want sports betting in Texas, because they're never going to win again. So, but I would say Texas and Georgia, those are the two biggies that are out there. Also in Minnesota, they kind of had the framework of a deal, but one of the key people in that deal lost to a Republican. So you might not get Minnesota. I think Georgia and Texas after last night probably look better than they would have otherwise, based on the fact that Dan Patrick could well get a job, maybe head of Homeland Security in the Trump administration. And I think that Georgia, they poisoned the well there. The last three legislative sessions, they passed voter integrity laws. And I think everybody in Georgia now realizes what an abhorrent and disgusting mistake it was for Major League Baseball to take away the All-Star game in Georgia, given that they had all their votes counted by 10 o'clock last night.
Yep.
And I think because of that, because of all the phony baloney acrimony that was created, I think this year you're going to want to hear like people with the unity feel. And the support for sports betting in Georgia was really bipartisan, because there were a lot of urban Democrats that supported it because of the money it was going to generate. And then you had a lot of, mid-range conservative libertarians, Republicans who supported it. And of course, you had some of the more red rural representatives who opposed it for religious reasons. So I think you'll probably get that coalition in Georgia this year, which would be a huge deal for the industry. And I think depending on what happens with Dan Patrick, he's not that Dan Patrick, he's another Dan Patrick.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Governor Dan. Depending on what happens with him, I really think, he could be Secretary of Deportation under Trump or something. And I think once he gets out of the way in Texas, you're going to be more likely to have a deal cut there.
I'm blown away by some of the stuff, especially the religious mumbo jumbo. I mean, give me a break with that nonsense. Haven't we gotten past that? Anytime somebody and the fact that Texas doesn't have sports betting is
Well,
a freaking
gambling
joke.
itself is
It's a joke.
The whole,
It's
not
all the
just
money in that state that goes on, and not just the NFL, but in college play. I mean, SMU's got more money than Jerry Jones, for God's sakes.
Well, of course, the irony there is, they probably bet six figures on like every big Texas high school football game every Friday
Exactly.
night,
Well, the high school football stadiums, you know this. I know my friends are broadcast, and they're bigger than a lot of college
Oh,
stadiums.
yeah. Yes.
They're huge. Sure. They're huge. But it's stuff, and I don't know if you said Minnesota, Georgia, this religious nonsense. Stop it. Then ban alcohol, ban cigarettes. Let's just go back to prohibition and ban everything. I mean, if people are going to bet, they're going to bet. You are not responding to the needs of the people. And not only that, as you said, look, money may be the root of all evil, but it also pays a hell of a lot of bills for a lot of states and can cause schools to get better, and a lot of other infrastructure can do a lot of good things for the state. And then somebody's going to go, God told me not to do it. Enough of that crap. Enough of it. Otherwise, you can apply that to every little vice, allegedly vice on the planet, right? And it's not, my God doesn't want me to bet. My God doesn't want me to drink. My God doesn't want me to this, that, but stop it with that nonsense. Everybody, you are costing your state millions of dollars by not having betting. It's ridiculous. And the people are going to go do it anyway. They're just going to find a different outlets to the money going back into your state and your community because God, for some reason, doesn't want you to bet.
I think God's telling me to bet on the Celtics tonight.
Oh, let's get into it. I can't wait.
That is going to be an Old Testament. That is Old Testament, okay? I think JT is going Old Testament tonight on Steve Kerr. I
agree.
I think it's going to be like
40 plus.
The floods and the locusts and the
locusts and
freaking
even the orgy of wine and the everything.
Yul Brynner's kid dying and it's going to be like it is CinemaScope. It's going to be a CinemaScope Old Testament beatdown.
I agree. And Golden State's been playing well. They're 6-1. Steph Curry just came back. He's on a 24-minute limit, I think. Coach Steve Bubblehead Kerr said. But and we still don't know about Jaylen Brown tonight with that hip flexor he's been dealing with. He may or may not play. Not really sure yet. But regardless, I don't want Tatum to force it. Let it come naturally and just bury those mofos. I think he's going to put up 40 plus. He's been the leading scorer in 6 out of the 8 games this year anyway for the Celtics. And I think he puts up 40 plus tonight, and they're going to get taught a lesson. I believe they're going to get taught a lesson. They'll just favored by 8, 2 6-1 teams. But this one's personal, Bill. This one is personal.
Yeah, I mean, his total is about 31, I think, 30, 31. Of course, you can buy points or sell, but yeah, I mean, his sort of projected totals around 30 at plus 115. That's a huge number.
I'm going over
at an NBA game, but I think a lot of people are leaning that way tonight. This line's 6.5. I was actually looking at the first half line.
I got it at 8. I see it at 8 right now.
Yeah, I got 6.5. Of course, that's DraftKings.
I got 8 right now on CBS Sports Line, and the total 229.5, and that was a few seconds ago.
Yeah, again, I like the first half in this one. I think you're going to have that kind of emotion, and that crowd is going to be revved up. They're going to boo Steve Kerr like he's A-Rod, justifiably so. And, I think these Celtics, it is great. It's so great to see that they're like more motivated than ever. It's like post-Deflategate Brady. They just want to murder everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's so great to see athletes that have achieved everything. Like you're Jason Tatum. Mm-hmm. You have a great kid. Well, now he has 2. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You've won a championship. You have more money. You have untold wealth. You have fame.
First team All-NBA.
But you feel like you don't have the respect that you think you should have. And that motivation, where Brady's motivation was like complete vengeance. Mm-hmm. And like, I need to like salt the earth and burn the fields and slaughter the livestock and enslave the people.
More biblical reference.
I think with Tatum, it's much more inside. It's much more, you damn it, I should have been MVP of the finals, and how come I'm not the best guy in the NBA? And tonight is kind of another step, at least in my opinion, on that journey. In that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you throw in the Olympic stuff, obviously.
Yeah, well, that motivator, that to me was kind of like Deflategate. That was like the ultimate motivator. And then to find out that Joe Mazzulla went over there, which is an freaking awesome coaching move. What a great coaching move that was. But the fact that he felt the need, like he sensed, or maybe was told by Tatum's or whatever, the fact that situation reached the point where during the off season, less than a month after the team had won a championship, that Mazzulla felt the need to go over to Paris and kind of get this guy right is a huge testament to Mazzulla, a huge testament to his ability as kind of a leader coach. But that Tatum was in such a position to where the coach needed to do that tells me, on the converse side, how much of a motivating factor I think a game like tonight is for him.
I think it's a great point, and I love Joe not because he went to my high school, Bishop Hendricken High School, and maybe a lot of those core values, though. We talk about God, and I look, I'm Roman Catholic. Do I go to church every Sunday? No. But, I believe in God. I believe in all that stuff. I hate it when religion comes. People use it as a crutch for gambling and a lot of other things. But Joe has, the values that he got in high school, and I know he got in a little bit of trouble at West Virginia, a couple of things. But I think he has learned from all of that. And I think it's a testament to him and his character about him going over to Paris. I think it's a great point. I think a lot of people forgot that he did that. And these are the same people. And I was sort of there a couple of years ago when they blew that, when Miami was up 3-0, and you were just like, wow, what is happening here? And then, to his credit, they didn't quit. They ended up losing a horrific Game 7 at home. But then they came back and won the championship. And I think he has learned so much for those 2 years probably. And we talk about life lessons. I think it's tremendous what you talked about then, just going over to Paris, making sure that, mentally he's in the game and don't get too down. But tonight is personal. He's averaging 30 points a game as it is, talking about Tatum, and 7.4 rebounds, 5.1 assists. I think he goes well over 30 points tonight, Bill. I really do.
Yeah, again, and like you said, it's when it becomes personal. Like, again, I use Brady as a benchmark pretty much for everything in my life. But that's me. When it becomes that level with these, he's a hyper competitive alpha male athlete, right? So it's sort of built in. And what was, one of the great knocks on Tatum was that he was kind of turn it off, turn it on. Mm-hmm. And that he didn't have the killer instinct. I probably wrote that 40 times. Yeah. And obviously he has it now. And so it'll be really interesting to see, aside from the betting, I'm going to be really interested to see how he handles tonight. I guess in a way, I'd almost be more impressed if it wasn't a big deal for him, if he just went out and did his job and won. But it wouldn't be as much fun, right?
Yeah. But don't you think Joe's going to say, don't force it. Don't chuck up 23.
Well, again,
let it come naturally, because I think it will come naturally, and he'll be able to get his 40 plus.
Well, I would imagine
1 for 20 from 3 and still get 40.
I would imagine Joe Mazzulla is probably telling him, you have to, you want to go to the level to where it doesn't bother you. Like with the whole Grant Williams thing, right? Like Tatum didn't do anything. It was Jaylen Brown and the rest of the team that, and some people knock Tatum for that. If as long as someone on the team does it, as long as there's a Jaylen Brown or someone, it doesn't. See, Tatum doesn't have to matter. He doesn't have to be that guy because he has Jaylen Brown, right?
Yes.
He doesn't have to be the dad or the big brother. Jaylen Brown is the big brother. So he doesn't have to be that because he has that. That's how they freaking won last year. So, I didn't have a problem with him not going after Grant Williams or anything, as long as someone on the team did, and that happened. So Brown stuck up for his guy. He stuck up for the team, and it sent a message to the rest of the league like, don't try this crap. Because the Celtics will respond in kind if and when they have to.
That really surprised me that Grant did that. It really did, and there was basically a hockey check, or Jalen said like an NFL bit as well, hockey check, whatever you want to call it. It was I was stunned that he did that, and luckily, thank God that Jason didn't get hurt, because if he did,
Yeah, I mean, he could have blown a knee on that play.
Yep. It really blindsided him. But like you said, it's a great point. Tatum doesn't have to be the guy. Even Brown doesn't have to be the guy. You got Derek White, you got Holiday, you got Pritchard, Al Horford, even Hauser. I know has been only been playing late, but they are just absolutely loaded. I mean, there's no.
Yeah, they got Tingus coming back. So
yeah, around Christmas, and that they haven't missed a beat.
Well, it'll be think about it this way. Come the mid or the early mid part of the season, when you kind of hit that malaise, it's like they're making a trade to get this top tier, big man scorer guy. You can think of it like, use the Red Soxian mentality of, we don't need to make a trade because Joe Bag of Balls is coming off the DL. Well, you could use that same mentality with the Celtics when Porzingis comes back and say, oh, my God, they just, it'd be like if they traded for him, right? Because he wasn't playing, now he's playing hurt, whatever.
Yeah.
So they're going to add him. So as well as they're playing now, and please spare me the contrarian chemistry crap.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to mess up no, they ain't going to mess up anything. They won the freaking title with this guy last year. Nothing is going to be messed up when he comes back. Please, let's rebut that before it happens. So, they're going to have this guy added to the pile, and it's going to take minutes or, relieve. And, the less somebody else plays, the less chance they have to get injured. And he can just ease into the playoffs, which is really, I would assume, how they're handling him anyway, right? They just want to ease him into the postseason. So as well as they're playing, barring, serious injury and all that, which is a given in anything, they have the potential to be even better.
Oh, I think so, no question. Now, wanted your take on what happened. Speaking of discombobulated, and Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers, and what happened with Marcus Hayes. I still haven't seen the exact quote. I mean, but it's really risky when you start bringing up somebody's family, especially their son or their brother who had passed. And I understand why Joel Embiid was upset, but regardless, you got to walk away. You can't have it. I knew he was going to get suspended. I thought at least for 2 games. He got 3 games, and still don't know when he's going to be able to play because of the injuries that hasn't played this year yet. But I was wondering your take on that situation. Is anything like that? Not that you, regardless of what you wrote, does anything like that ever happen to you? Did you ever have somebody? An athlete confronts you about something that you wrote?
Well, I was never a beat guy, right?
No,
I read a ton of columns. I always joke that people don't read what I write anyway. I mean, I've heard from the Red Sox about things. I've heard from the Patriots. Usually, unless you're in the locker room, and unless you're covering the team or you're in the locker room, if there's a problem, you'll hear from the team. You'll hear from your sources on the team. I've never been in a position where I wrote something where someone was going to physically confront me over it. But again, I don't, I wouldn't think of myself in a position to where, this guy knows what I wrote anyway. I never think of myself as that way. I think when you're, you have to understand when you're covering a team, that's your full-time job. Like if you work at a bank 40 hours a week, take that and drop it into covering the Celtics full-time, or let's say you cover the 76ers full-time. Mm-hmm. You go to every practice. You travel with the team. You hang out with the team when they're not playing. You go in the locker room before the game. It is your full-time job. These guys are your colleagues. I'm not going to say they're the coworkers, but these are the people that you work with. This guy works with Joel Embiid every day. The writers who cover any team, their coworkers are the guys from the other media outlets who cover the team with them, and the players and the PR staff on the team and everybody else they interact with. So if you interact with somebody on a regular basis, and he knows who you are, and you've spoken to him in the past, and you're conscious of what he writes, it could get personal in a situation like that. Whereas if it was somebody that, you didn't really know, you're just going to ignore them. So I think in that case, it was almost like a personal thing. Like he had a personal or professional relationship with this guy. So think of it that way. Think of it as like if you work in an office. You work in an office with Joe Schmo, and this guy works in an office with Joel Embiid. So when anytime familiarity breeds contempt at times, right? So I think it's as much of that. There was obviously a pre-existing professional relationship, which again, it's sometimes, and I understand it. And I get this from teams a lot, they're like, well, gee, why have you become bad? Or, why are you like this? And why, it's just like, because from their perspective, they look at it as, well, this guy should be saying good things about us for whatever reason. And my perspective is I write for my readers.
Yeah, exactly.
I write for my bosses. I write for my readers. So I kind of think that was probably a part of it too. I think it might have even been an issue of where, man, I can't believe you said that, as opposed to I can't believe you said that.
What
much more the you than the that.
Totally agree. What I think is going to be interesting, the NBA's press release yesterday said the suspension, quote, will commence with the next NBA regular season game for which he is eligible and able to play.
Yeah.
Now, the 76ers can manipulate that, right? Can't they?
Yes.
I mean, because
they could say he's eligible, but he's not eligible.
He's eligible, but he's not. I mean, they could say he's eligible tomorrow or tonight, whenever they're
all
playing.
All it means is he's not going to get paid. That's all it means.
Yeah.
I mean, this... I think, the NBA has to keep up appearances, as we say, right? They have to keep up appearances, and they're working, there's a big inside baseball journalism issue that nobody cares about outside journalism. Mm-hmm. There's a huge issue right now with access and locker room access in all sports with players and media people. So the NBA is trying to work that balance because they don't want to be in a position to say totally F you to the media. Because they need them. They need the media. They need, they get trillions or billions, a gazillion dollars worth of earned media coverage every single day. And it was always fun to work with the Celtics because, Jeff Twist came up in the Red Auerbach era. Yeah. And Jeff always appreciated it when you showed up. He was of that era where, like, any press is good.
At any level, too, Bill. It's a great, at any level. It didn't matter. I dealt with him when I was just starting out in radio. All the way until the very end, he treated everybody.
Well, the Celtics, they accommodate everybody.
Yes.
Because it's ingrained in their organ. And I think of the Patriots, I'll give Stacey credit on that front too.
Absolutely, yeah, he's
the
great.
Patriots. From a media perspective, and I don't know how much fans care about this, but we're talking about it anyway. Yeah. They will accommodate you in terms of access credentials. The Celtics have always been that way. And I think it goes back to Red and Walter Brown and, and even now, if you're from any media outlet of substance, a website, a blog, and you want to get credentialed for a Celtics game and you're legit and you're like, this is, whatever, they're going to credential you.
Yeah. You might sit on the night. You might sit on
you sit 8 miles up.
Yeah.
They'll give you locker room access. If you act professional and you do, if you're there to do a job, they will accommodate you. And again, so get back to Embiid. They can't just say, go, do whatever you want to people. You can't have that. It's almost kind of like with Kelsey, right?
Yeah.
He works for ESPN. Obviously, from a man level, if somebody says that about my brother, I'm going to act the same way. I would think my brothers would probably act even worse on my behalf. Obviously, you can't steal and destroy property. That's a felony in Florida. So you don't want to take the phone and smash it, but you might do something to the effect of say it to my face or what did you say to me? I don't blame Kelsey at all for being pissed. I don't think he needed to apologize. Maybe ESPN thought he needed to apologize.
I'm sure that's
you cannot steal and destroy property. That is a
he might have
a third-degree felony in Florida.
Yeah,
so
he might have
to pay for the guy's phone. You have to make amends there. But the guy was a jerk.
Total a-hole. Yep.
And you can't, I'm not going to try to be Mr. Tough Guy against Jason Kelsey and make it that level because he's going to kick my ass.
They're going Kelsey. I mean, punk asses that they were.
Yeah,
they're lucky they get a
so if you're gonna say, Of course, I don't know why you would even say that. Why would you even say that? I don't understand why people
20
say that.
minutes of fame. They want that 20 seconds of fame. It is so. Maybe some younger kids now. These people will learn. Maybe it sends a bit of a like. Oh, okay, better not do these. Everybody.
And of course, if you want to be literal about it, it's kind of the literal opposite of what this kid said, because he's dating a woman. So you're accusing him of being something that he's literally no. He's dating Taylor Swift. He's not. He's like literally the opposite of what you said he was.
But as you know, most people use that word.
I understand.
Don't use it as sexual. As homophobic. It's basically.
But it's just another level of.
It wasn't a good. Yeah,
it's another level of stupidity, right?
Absolutely.
What was this? That's like 4 levels of stupidity in one thing, right?
Yeah.
Being a jerk, going after a guy's brother, trying to make it viral, and actually being literally wrong in what you're saying. That's like 4 levels of dumbassery in one act, which is amazing. In one sentence, you get 4 levels of dumbassery in one sentence.
Bill, thanks so much. You got to call him out today.
Drake May, 4 more years, baby. Drake May.
Yes,
absolutely. 4 more years.
Yes,
Drake May. I want him taking snaps until Barron Trump is president.
Oh, God, jeez, please.
That's not a political statement. That's a statement to the fact that Barron Trump is 18 and he can't be president for 17 years. I want Drake May to be taking snaps. I don't care if it's Chelsea Clinton's grandchildren or Barron Trump or Kamala's grandniece. I want him taking snaps for at least 4 more years, if not 14 more years.
Sounds good, Bill. You're the best. Thanks so much. Check Bill Sparrows out, Boston Herald columnist and senior betting analyst on bookies.com. Great stuff on both of those sites. Thanks, Bill. We will talk next week. We'll talk about Jason Tatum's monster game.
Yeah. Or how much money God lost tonight for us gambling.
We'll see. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate you. All the best. All right, quick break, Angel. When we come back, Mick Colagio going to join me, and we'll talk about the anti-Celtics, the Boston Bruins, especially last night, just sucking you-know-what in Toronto against the Maple Leafs. All part of the Pete Sheppard Show next here on the Coastal Sports Network.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber, and I would like you to know that our company has been selling Anderson windows for over 60 years. See the complete line of Anderson windows at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or in Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
What's up, Southwest Florida? Jim and the Beef Guy here. Fort Myers, we answered your call. We're pumped to announce the opening of our 2nd location. It's on 41 just north of the Edison Mall. And guys, nothing's changed here. The beef, the sausage, the breaded steak, our Maxwell Polish. Now serving you in 2 locations, Fort Myers and Bonita Springs. And don't forget, if you're having a party, check out our catering menu. And guys, when you're at the counter, don't call it Gardenia. It's pronounced Chardonnay.
Phil Castanetti Sports World in Saugus, Massachusetts is New England's place to buy or sell the finest in sports memorabilia. For over 35 years, Sports World has offered the finest in sports collectibles. Last month, you might remember Tim Thomas, legendary Bruins goalie, returned on October 5th. What a turnout it was. And now a new event coming up. On Saturday, November 30th, it's Willie O'Ree, yes, the original Jackie Robinson of the National Hockey League. He'll be signing autographs to the public, $25 each. There'll be photos, pucks, and cards available. Phone orders are welcome. Just call 781-233-7222 for more information. Sports World in Saugus. Be there.
Ion Tampa Bay is the latest news, weather, and traffic for Pinellas, Pasco, Ellsboro, Hernando, and surrounding communities. Stay connected on X, Facebook, and their website, iontb.com. Ion Tampa Bay keeps you informed on breaking news as it happens. Southwest Florida's newest game in town. Sports Radio 102.9, the game powered by Ion Tampa Bay. We'll be right back.
Okay, men. This is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. No, you won't. Because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time and show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick and proud aunt. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing. But not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. 1 in 6. That little girl sitting alone at the playground, she can't play like the other kids. She doesn't have the energy because she's hungry. School lunch will be her only meal today. It breaks my heart that this is the reality in our country, but it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. This food is then provided to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about using your imagination, learning, and having fun. These children shouldn't have to miss out on simply being a kid because they're hungry. To find out how you can help end childhood hunger in your community, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Pete Sheppard Show.
Welcome back. It is hour number 3, third and final hour here on a Hump Day Wednesday, The Pete Sheppard Show here on the Coastal Sports Network. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out across the video platform. Following me on Twitter X at PShep326, on Facebook, also on Tampa Joe's Facebook page as well, SR1029thegame.com, Ion TV, CSN Florida, Rumble, Kick, Spotify, LinkedIn, Twitch, YouTube. Call or text the show, 727-858-6650. We're going to chat with Mick Colagio in just a second here. Gas Pump Guy says, good morning, fellas. Hoping you're having a great day. Yes. So far, yes. Big plans today, Angel. Big plans after the show.
As I zoom back into the room here.
Zoom.
Yeah,
Did you ever watch that show, Zoom?
Yep, sure did.
Originated in Boston. You know who was one of the original kids on that show?
Is it anybody
a famous broadcaster who's still broadcasting today? Catch him on
Harlan?
ESPN a lot. Huh?
Kevin Harlan?
No, but you're in the right sort of area. Boston guy, very famous, very versatile.
Dadgummit. Why am I drawing a blank? Boston guy, very famous, very versatile.
Initials SM. Think about somebody versatile that can call football, basketball, hockey, baseball.
Dadgummit. Why?
Sean McDonough. I'll ease your pain. Sean McDonough was one of the original cast members on Zoom.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yep. His dad, being a famous columnist at the time for the Boston Globe, I think he was there then, but was the late great Will McDonough. But yeah, Sean, one of the original members of Zoom, the red and blue shirts.
Funny take as you mentioned about columnists, right? So funny how just fast forward now to November 6th, and I see Mick there. But fast forward to November 6th, it's funny how they're starting to say that, now journalists may turn out to be journalists all over again. Like, you guys have nothing else better to do the day after. Insane.
All right, let's. It's that time. Yesterday, we didn't have a lot. We started talking about some other stuff besides the Bruins. So now we're definitely going to talk about the Bruins. Probably not in a great way tonight, but joining me, the one and only, and I play this because I got to do this. I mean, absolutely horrific performance last night. The only thing that was good hockey that I watched yesterday, Nick, I took your advice, and what's that sound? Nick, that's on your end. Something's going on. I can't. I see you, but there's some.
Does it sound like a wasp? Is that what you said, Angel?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it did get better. Yeah.
I live in the old condo village at the Bay Point Golf Club in Onset, Mass. And
are they mowing the grass?
No, they're leaf blowing, and the Leafs keep coming back in. The Toronto Maple Leafs. They keep on congregating in a driveway, and they stand there and they're blowing 5 Leafs around like. I mean, they're less efficient than the Bruins penalty kill.
Well, we'll get to that in a second, but we're used to this. This happens all the time. Angel has to put police tape outside his window to his left because the landscapers are always coming around as gated community. He lives the same with me. I'm just in the back part of my house here where the office is, so it's not like I'm back out in the kitchen before where you could hear. So we've all gone through it. We all go. I just want to make sure it wasn't your computer. But yeah,
I'm sorry. They do this every Wednesday morning, and for some reason I forgot. Probably the reason I probably forgot is because I retired from my news position a month ago, and I no longer have a late Tuesday night deadline followed by being woken up by these guys. So I kind of forgot that was the morning.
But we can still catch you on. You're still doing rinkrapmc.com, and what else? Boston Hockey Now.
I just filed the I've been consulting with Boston Hockey Now. They got 2 younger fellas going at it there, Andrew Fantucchio and my old pal Chris Hurley, who's ecstatic about last night's election results. But right now, right now we'll talk about the other blue team and the hex they put on the Bruins.
I'm really, and I watched most of the game on my phone last night. I took your advice. We're watching Keep Your Head Up. So I had that. We were watching that at the same time.
That was better than the Bruins game.
Way better. And thank you for suggesting. It was done in 2013. I liked it. It was about Don
13.
Cherry.
Okay, so not quite as far back as I had thought. All right.
But I thought it was very. We were both very entertained. You know, my wife's a big hockey person too, so very entertaining. And then after the first period last night, I mean, I don't get it. I don't understand. They let up 3 power play goals, and then of course, at the end, the empty netter. But what?
So they didn't give up anything 5-on-5. Not a single guy came out of that game with a minus, except for the empty netters.
I know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
But the problem is that Toronto finally looks defensively formidable because Stolarz is such a big goalie, and when he's playing well, and he was not supposed to be the number 1, Wall was, and they went and one of the ways that the Florida Panthers were pillaged by in the Stanley following the Stanley Cup is they got Lorentz from that team. I think Stolarz was their backup, and so what you have here is Florida Panthers. The depth of the Florida Panthers is sprinkled about the NHL right now.
Yes.
And Stenlund, Lomberg, There's just so many guys out there that they were not able to keep on, including Montour. Montour's with the Kraken. That's a huge one.
Mhm.
So, that's why I don't give them any shot at being the first salary cap era team, which is almost 20 years now, to go to the Stanley Cup final 3 years in a row. Nobody's done it. I'll be shocked if they do. They look really good right now. It's going to hit them. It always does.
Did you just right? I didn't mishear you about you just said Toronto Maple Leafs and Stanley Cup final, right? You didn't.
No.
say
I said
Seattle.
that the Florida Panthers, will not become. If I feel safe about thinking one thing about this season, it's that the Florida Panthers will not get back to the Stanley Cup final. I feel like it's just they've lost too much off of their team, off of the fabric of their team, including key players. And I just cannot imagine them finding a way, even though it looks really good in the early going for them. I think that they will hit a wall, and it's not going to be pretty.
Let me ask you this, a technical question. And again, no Austin Matthews last night either. Arguably,
Well, I think that helps them simplify their power play. I think they ran simpler plays because of it.
Last night it did.
Yeah, I mean, and they got some puck luck, let's face it.
Well, let me ask you a technical question here because, back in the day, whether it was Dryden or Bernie Parent, Pete Peters, one of the best, Pelly Lindbergh, back in the day.
Yeah,
and the lost art of stick handling for a goalie. I used to cringe. Tuukka used to, as good a goalie as he was, great at times, I used to cringe every time he would handle the puck behind
I
him.
know it. Yeah.
Raymond does it last night, tries to freeze the puck, and then you either got.
I think that's the byproduct. I think that's the byproduct of playing against a team with a lot of speed. I think the Bruins felt a little rushed last night, and I think that's one of the reasons they really found it a hard time trying to generate offense. Is they were not able to gain separation with their speedier players. Were not able to gain any separation. Their best playmakers weren't able to find any time to space or think. Everything had to be done on a rush handoff kind of basis, and I think the Bruins are not good that way. They haven't figured out a way to get speed from their system yet. They can keep up in a game and they can keep it even. And, they didn't in the sense that they wound up taking 3 penalties that cost them. So, yeah, they lost, and it looks way worse on the scoreboard than it was on the ice. But it did look like they were chasing the game the whole night. And I think this is the problem with the Bruins right now. And this is the thing that and I don't disagree with them getting bigger. I think that's the best thing they could have done. But I do think that Marchand has lost a step. I do think we're seeing here that Pasternak, for all of his brilliance and overall playmaking ability, is not a fast skater. He can gain speed if he has space, and he can shoot the puck real hard if he has space. But in tight quarters, he's not that fast zone to zone. So I think that the Bruins right now have a lot to figure out going forward and how to utilize their talent. I think it's going to come. I think they're, I'm a little concerned that Trent Frederick and Morgan Geekie started the season, along with several others, so poorly. Geekie has not found traction. Frederick seems to be settling in a bit. Geekie is now scratched again last night so Tyler Johnson could make his debut. Count me among those who's not big on the Tyler Johnson thing. I think it's good for the Bruins to have a presence in their lineup that Kevin Shattenkirk gave them last year from the defense. But I do think that he's not a long-term solution, and I think they need to figure out what's ailing Geekie and get in his head and get him going here.
Kepke kind of got robbed. I mean, he hit the post. I thought that was going to go in. It didn't. But you look at, Toronto's power play, if I'm not mistaken, going into last night's game, Mick, was dead last at 31st. I think dead last at 31. Yeah. And they get 3 against the Bruins.
The Bruins have not been a great penalty kill team. They have not been a consistent penalty kill team. Let's at least say that. And so that's got to be figured out. But I do think that they got a whole different look last night because Toronto was without Matthews, and they turned it into, Morgan Riley joins the power play, which they had been doing with 5 forwards. I'm not a fan of 5 forward power plays. Toronto was using 5 forwards. Not last night. Morgan Riley, their offensive defenseman, He played the power play, and he helped them with it. He factored. So I think you're going to get Berube's now going to have to rethink that whole thing and say, hey, maybe we get our some. Of course, you want Matthews around the ice, but you got to figure out a way to keep Riley out there too.
I just hate losing to this team. They had lost to them in 8 tries. They were 8-0 against them dating back to 2023. It's not that I hate the Toronto Maple Leafs. I just expect to beat them. It's every single time.
Yeah, I've been telling Bruins fans for 3 years that the luck's going to run out. There's too much talent there. They're finally going to start winning some series.
That's against anybody.
And you know what? They won one. They beat the Tampa Bay Lightning the year after they won the 2020 bubble tournament. They won a legit Stanley Cup in 21. Though people argue about the Kucherov part with the LTIR, the long-term injury reserve. I don't argue that. Everybody's doing it. And it didn't matter anyway. They were going to win. And then the next year they're all banged up and they still take the Avalanche to 6 games and almost win. They don't win. The next year, and Bunting concusses Sergachev on a bad hit. And that's what it took for Toronto to win a series. So winning comes very difficult for Toronto in the postseason, but I think the Bruins are going to be a team that's going to struggle throughout this regular season, very much like the 2009-10 season that preceded their Stanley Cup year. I think there's going to be that kind of year for the Bruins because they're down. Like they will love no Kessel this year, no DeBrusque, and even though they got reinforcements with Lindholm, he's a good player in a lot of little ways. They don't have enough players who get them over the top with extraordinary offensive ability. Marchand used to be one of those guys, and he's playing better and better as he goes. But I'm done thinking that he's going to come back to being one of those guys when he's 36 years old here. And I think he turns 37 in the playoffs if they make it. And I say if because the games haven't been played yet. But to me, the Bruins are a cup contender with needing the right kind of accent, but they got a lot to figure out in their game before they get there. But I love a lot about this team right now. I just feel like they're in the rough stages of figuring it out, as are several other NHL teams. They're somewhere hanging around 500. It's a lot of them.
Well, there's one that isn't, and they've channeled the Bruins, at least in the regular season start 2 years ago, and that is the Winnipeg Jets. It was probably a lot of people that are non-hockey don't understand because it's 3,000 miles away from the Northeast, and certainly even here in Florida, it's a long ways away. That team is 12-1, and we always love to see the New England kids do well. And Hellebuck from UMass Lowell in goal has been terrific so far this year. But the Winnipeg, 12-1. We saw the Bruins do something like that a couple of years ago.
They were 14-1-3 last season.
Yeah.
Without Bergeron and Krejci.
What do you like about the Winnipeg team?
I think goaltending is huge.
Yeah.
And Hella Busick, as I like to call him. Yeah. I got to switch 2 letters. And but that's been a good hockey team for years.
Yeah.
For several years, and they almost blew it all up. Blake Wheeler had his best years with that team, and they finally shipped him out to the Rangers when he was at the end. They decided to keep Scheifele, and a lot of people thought Scheifele was one of the problem players there. Well, from a physical talent standpoint and ability to get up and down the ice, play with some ferocity, terrific player. Mm-hmm. So, and they've got some other really good picks that they've used for wingers and defensemen. That's a good hockey team. And do they have enough to get over the top? I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked at them hard enough to see if I consider them bona fide, in the terms of, what's their center depth chart? What's their top 3 defense? I look at those as the skeletal structures of a Stanley Cup champion. You got to have one or the other in spades. And I'm not sure they got it, but I do like them. I like the team. I like the makeup. I've liked them for years. And it was sooner or later they were going to play well. And I think that some teams start really well. The Bruins last 2 years. Yeah. And this year they're not. But Monty came out. Monty very confidently, more than I would have been, said, "Well, at some point we're going to go 9-1." Like it happens. And I'm like, that might happen with this team, but I don't know. I just feel like this Bruins team is going to be more of a grind. and I feel like they might get in without any home ice or anything.
Maybe that's a blessing in disguise. Maybe that's a blessing in disguise.
That's right. Well, I think that's part of the mentality that got inside the Bruins' own heads, and I think that kind of kept them a little bit. I don't know. It wasn't a strategy. I don't want to call it that, but I do think that they took a little too much solace in the fact that this season, you have 10 returning players from last year's team, from the top of the lineup on down to the middle, through the middle, and then you add Lindholm and Zadorov, and Lindholm played well. Zadorov didn't. He's starting to play well now. Not one of those Bruins was playing well. None of them. Yeah. It was really weird. And now I feel like they finally found it the last week or so, and they're going to be games like this for them because they lack pizzazz, they lack scoring, and I think that speed is difficult for them to. Teams that play with defensive chemistry and speed, both of those things, the Bruins have a hard time against generating offense against it.
Real quick, Mick, what about this Utah Hockey Club? And last night, I mean, they lose to Winnipeg 3-0 on the power play. They were terrible. They had no shots on net the first one and only one each of the last two. 0 for 3. But just for hockey in general, it's so far 5-5-3, not bad for an expansion team. Obviously,
they fit right in.
Go ahead. What?
They fit right in.
Yeah. It's interesting. We saw what Vegas did their first year, and I don't know if Utah's going to be able to do that, but certainly, could be worse.
They're not that good.
No.
Also, the surprise is gone. Everybody's afraid of these teams now. And besides, this is not an expansion team. This is the Arizona Coyotes.
Basically,
you're right. So for a few years, they've been stripped down by Bill Armstrong, former Providence Bruins coach.
Yeah.
Army, it was Peter Laviolette's assistant when they won the Calder Cup in 1999. You're right, my cousin's son-in-law, to be accurate. So are they a good? I think they've been a solid team for a few years without any offense whatsoever. Clayton Keller's a good player. They're trying to add to that. They're trying to grow that a little bit. I think the Kraken, even though they have not started terribly well, I think that they're a very intriguing team right now because of the kind of players that they have now that they didn't have before. They're figuring it out. They're a little like the Bruins right now, although they're not as defensively solid. So right now they're going to play themselves out of the playoffs by Thanksgiving if they don't watch it. But they do have some really exciting talent on that team now. So I'm watching, keeping my eye on them to see if they're going to turn it around, because that's a much more talented hockey team than it was 1 or 2 years ago when they did have some playoff success even. So the Kings are good. We know they were coming. They were going to keep getting better. Vegas stays good. The Canucks, I think that this kid Hughes on defense, he's the real deal. Zone to zone, offense, defense, no matter which team has the puck. He's an excellent player, and I think he's easily the best Hughes brother. He didn't get the most hype, but he's the best one. No question.
Mick Elagio dropping the NHL knowledge as always. Thanks, Mick, so much. Appreciate you. Bruins have they're home against Calgary or they're on the road. I can't remember.
They're at home Thursday. It's going to be a test. They're going to play the better teams now. This is going to get tired of sledding now because the turnarounds that they had in the last few weekend or so, that was good for them. They needed to right their ship. They did. And they didn't play bad last night. They just couldn't get anything going. And when Stolarz played really well with his defense, and this is the first time in a long time I've seen Toronto have chemistry between his goalie and his defense. And that's a little scary for a team with that much talent because they can put the puck in the net. We'll see what they do going forward. Berube's a good coach. He can get in their heads.
Absolutely. Mick, we'll talk again next week. Great stuff as always. And thanks for the
one thing I forgot to mention. I want to give a salute to Jack Edwards.
Please do.
What a great guy he is. What an astute hockey fan he is. And what a great job he did all those years bringing home the Bruins to the hometown fans on NESN TV. I just think the world of Jack, and it was wonderful to see him again, in the home game over the weekend.
I played his video. I played about 3 minutes of everything. And what the real sad part is, the speech now is slowing down, but he still said on this, and he's like, I'll address the elephant in the room. They still he still doesn't really know what's going on.
They don't know. They've tried everything to try to figure out everything, and they have not put a finger on this thing. They haven't pinpointed it. It's bizarre that it sounds like such a normal kind of a problem in our society that you would wind up thinking, okay, what happened? Was there some sort of stroke they missed? I don't know. You wonder all kinds of things privately, but you certainly don't want to go out there spouting them like I just sort of did. I don't, I'm just saying that these things are the best doctors in the world are looking after him, and there has been no conclusion that I'm aware of. But Jack's been wonderful. He's been a terrific hockey fan. He's been really supportive of me. And he told me he stole some of my stuff on the air, And so, I mean, the thing I love about Jack is he's always shown the lesser known people some immense respect and just judges according to what, according to your content, not according to, your number of Twitter followers.
No question. A classy guy all the way through. And, I wish him well, and his wife Lisa and everybody else. And he's going to be fine. I hope whatever it is.
Well, I don't think it's going to keep him from skiing, and he loves skiing.
He loves skiing. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mick, you're the best. Thanks so much.
Terrific, Pete. Thanks for having me on again.
My pleasure, always. Mick Colagio joining one of the best NHL guys in the country, no question about it. I'm not going to take a break here, Angel, so don't worry about that. I know Mia O'Brien is going to join us via phone as she is heading in to speak with Coach Peterson. Coach Doug Peterson and the Jaguars have a big game this week again. Of course, every game is big, 2-7. The season's probably sort of lost, but they do have a game for the Minnesota Vikings, and they can create some havoc there. Jaguars are home at Everbank Stadium this week. 4-point underdogs to the Minnesota Vikings, who won on Sunday night and now travel to Jacksonville. But Ghost of Gerolitis, what's up, boys? What are we discussing this morning? Everything. We had a college football playoff poll, which we're going to get into again with Mia. And I want to see what happened with her at the cocktail party, all that stuff. And plus, she's on her way. Her thoughts on the Jaguars and another tough loss to Angels, Philadelphia Eagles over the past Sunday. And Angel, you're coming up after this fine program as well.
Yep.
With your show. And right after we get done with Mia, in the next 10, 15 minutes, we'll give you some leeway so you can get ready. Because I have big plans after the show, Angel.
Do you now?
Yeah.
Are we going to a festival of sorts?
No, I'm going to get my oil change in the car.
Yeah, those are huge plans.
Huge. Absolutely huge. Big plans. And I got to get myself ready and psyched and juiced up for the Celtics Golden State game tonight at the Garden. It's on ESPN. Ghost of Jeremiah says, as long as you're down voting Bama, we're going to be friends. Well, Bama's in there right now with 2 losses. They're barely hanging in there, and I think they're going to lose at LSU on Saturday night. As far as I know, it's still a 3-point. They're a 3-point favorite on the road against LSU, where Brian Kelly and the Tigers are a perfect 11-0 at night since he took over the LSU program. So we'll see.
It's just like Andy Reid, which I was telling Debbie, but I mean, obviously the game's it's been played Monday night, but Andy Reid rarely ever loses on a Monday night, even when he was with the Eagles. It was like, I mean, he may have maybe 2, if that, but Andy never seems to lose on a Monday night. And now with KC being 8-0, I mean, this is going to be, again, banged up, whatever you want to call it with KC, but KC is finding ways to continue to win and next man up. And then obviously you have what people thought was the wide receiver that was not going to make a difference, but obviously he was a difference maker on Monday.
Yeah, he was huge. Absolutely huge. By the way, Mia said she'll be calling in a second. She was running a little behind. Most guests don't have to call in if they're going to be 2 minutes late. She's very professional and tidy. Typical of her. Tide rolling out of Death Valley with a W. 8 rolling out. Yes, I agree. Unless LSU absolutely collapses, I just can't see it. They've never collapsed at home at night in that atmosphere, which is going to be absolutely nuts. You know how liquored up all those kids are going to be for that game? Absolutely huge game. And they have all day to get it going. 727-858-6650. So Angel Martinez coming up right after this with Martinez and company. Me O'Brien's going to join me in just probably a minute or so here as she's calling in via phone.
It's funny how Mick was mentioning about the, which I love to call them the Wizards, which they've been outside now. And thankfully, I guess the bulk of them have been across the street, which is a good thing because the one that came through earlier, I think they have either a brand new dude or it's a brand new machine because, man, it was going like freaking crazy.
Yeah, at first I thought it was Mick's computer. He had something on, but I should have known, really, that it's probably a lawnmower or a leaf blower or something like that. Hang on. What's going on here?
Don't worry.
That's Mia. She says she's putting her makeup on. It takes too long. Don't worry.
Okay, you don't need it for the phone. But we know she's me with Dougie P, which he still say whatever you want to say about freaking Jacksonville. I mean, the Eagles squeak one by, but I think it's got to be coming to the end of his term in Jacksonville. It has to be. I mean, I don't think Jacksonville is looking to fire yet another coach during the season, but it's coming to a close.
Look, any day now, any week now. We keep saying that. We've been saying that now for a month, and I don't know. Maybe Shad Khan is just going to roll with it now that it's 2-7, and they didn't quit against your Eagles, but still, it's another devastating loss. And Rick M says, "Good morning, CSN guys." That's Coastal Sports Network. Yes, good morning.
Morning, Rick.
Thanks for checking in. If they were going to do it, I think they had to do it. If the Patriots had won in London and they jumped out to a 10-0 lead, and I really thought if they sustained that, but Jacksonville find a way to rush 17 times in a row, and then at that time they were still sort of in it, but now they're out of it. Ghost of Gerolitis.
That's a good one.
We need to leave about 30 to 45 minutes before we actually need to leave. Got to add in time so they can get the hair right. Yeah, well, sometimes that's the case.
Sometimes, but no,
I'm quite punctual. It takes me about 2 minutes to get ready to go out, especially down here because I will not wear pants. I don't have to wear a tie or a jacket, so I have a few pairs of real nice shorts and shirts, polos, and I don't really need anything else. And it is a beautiful already 82 degrees here in Southwest Florida today. A little humid the last couple of days.
It has been. It kind of cranked up to what feels like the summer 100% degree humidity. We like to call it 1,000 here during summer, but it always gets up to 100%. But yeah, it feels warm. No, Ghost of G, my wife, thankfully, she's quick. She doesn't even 5 minutes in out the door, poof, gone. So, and I know some people they take a little extra time to get ready. I get it.
I was pretty quick, but there are times it could take a few. I put my clothes I put my shirt and shorts out and boom, I'm ready to go. There she is. She is all dolled up now for me. Doug Peters' press conference. Mia O'Brien. And I can't believe it took you a few extra minutes to put makeup on. You don't need makeup. From 1010XL and Helmets and Hills. Good morning, Mia. How are you?
Well, the thing is I don't need makeup for Doug's presser, Pete. It's that I have a nice 12-hour day ahead of me, and I will be calling my first ESPN Plus game of the season. And so it's the packing for the 12-hour day and making sure I'm all dolled up and do my hair despite the fact that it's muggy as crap out here on November the 6th. So that's the part that gets in the way of everything.
I got you. All right. First and foremost, let's start at the cocktail party last week. Did you get your Ruth Chris steak with the food, the atmosphere, the environment? How was your day last Saturday?
So I actually have a funny story on that front.
Cool.
My co-host, Lauren Brooks, contracted some type of virus. I keep joking it's the bubonic plague. I probably couldn't. And so because of that, we actually reshuffled our programming lineup. And so I unfortunately was not on the air at the Georgia-Florida Hall of Fame luncheon. Yeah. However, I did have to pop in to, of course, make sure all the video cameras and everything was set up. Thankfully, we did have a candidate for interview in, and as a manager, I had to go to lunch with said candidate. So I did get free lunch out of the day. It was not my Ruth Chris steak, unfortunately, but yes, I did get free lunch on Friday in some form or fashion. So shout out.
What'd you get? What'd you have? What was the spread?
It actually was. We took the candidate to what's it called, Cheddar Kitchen, which if you can believe it, had never been to, despite the fact that there's tons of them in Iowa and there's tons of them here. So finally got some biscuits, which was good, and I had a nice Monte Cristo. So that was a little different. I appreciated that. As for the on-field action, I ultimately, despite the fact that I had many offers to, excuse me, not only cover the game, of course, but also to tailgate, be a part of the festivities. We're in the midst of a nice little, I think it's like a 15 or something day stretch for me of like games or something every day. So ultimately said, you know what, just going to watch the game at home, rest for the first time in quite some time. And so was not at the cocktail party. Of course, had plenty of boots on the ground from 1010XL who were there, some other comrades. Look, the two biggest storylines coming out of this game, because I don't think it surprises anyone that Georgia won it. I don't think it surprises a lot of people with how the Gators have been playing of late and how quite frankly, the Dogs have been playing of late, that Florida covered the spread, Pete, especially once that spread did shrink to 14.5. The two biggest questions are regarding the quarterback. The regression of Carson Beck, or is it regression, or is it the system, and DJ Lagway's health. I think, personally speaking, and again, we'll know more when Billy Napier and the Gators release their estimated injury report a little bit later today, we will have a better idea of exactly what Lagway's injury is. But to me, to everyone who saw that injury, they thought it was season ending. Then again, I once upon a time on the very same football field saw Trevor Lawrence go down on Monday Night Football and thought that he was done for months. And as we all know, he played he played out the string of the 2023 season.
Yeah, and and then the other story, unfortunately, was that idiot in the stands, and the went viral with the fight in the stands with the cops and everything, and that was ugly, and that got almost as much play the last couple of days, or for Saturday and Sunday, as the game. Unfortunately, just horrible situations. Anyway. We digress. Real quick about the college football playoff poll. Any thought? I mean, I love it. I love that it's 12 teams. I love it. Absolutely love it. I know it's going to change from week to week. It's kind of fun. But any thoughts about the college football playoff poll before we get into the Jaguars?
Yeah, as Indiana popped up on the screen, I yelled out, "Indiana is in the playoff!" And my boyfriend looked at me and said, "Well, duh, they're undefeated in the Big Ten. Of course they're in the playoff bracket." And I was like, just think about what you just said. Indiana is in the playoff. I think what Kurt Signetti has done has been above and beyond even what Sonny Dykes was able to do at TCU 2 years ago, Pete, if I'm being completely honest, because I believe there's sustainability to be had with the ecosystem and the system. Now, will his assistants be plucked off this offseason? Most certainly. Could his roster be, taken in the portal? Maybe. But ultimately, I think the system he's built is built for the long term, and I could be completely out of place, and it could all be dependent on Curtis Rourke. But I'm rooting for the Hoos, man. I'm very curious to see what happens to the Hoosiers down the stretch of this season.
Yeah, the only thing with them is, and they've been terrific, absolutely no question. He took all his guys over, 13 of them from James Madison, which was a very good team. And it's just they have the 103rd, schedule, ranked 103. That doesn't mean they're not a solid.
Once upon a time, Iowa had a similar situation happen to them in 2015, and they made it to a Rose Bowl that I covered. So, therefore, it's okay. I'm not going. They have to play the games that are in front of them, and I think that even if Ohio State pulls it out in 2 weeks' time, I do think that that game at the Shoe is going to be a lot better than many thought it would be about 5 months ago.
I think it's going to be great. And as my man Booker McFarland said last night during the show, though, from my Miami Hurricanes, it's like, we have Cam Ward and you don't. And that's what it comes down to. Which is going to be really, really interesting. But all right, we digress. Let's get on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Another, I guess you could call it a heartbreaking loss again, this time to Angels of Philadelphia Eagles at the Link, losing by 5. Every week, I think you might come on the show, and I'm like, is Doug Peterson going to survive? He's going to survive. Now at 2-7, I'm like, well, Shad Khan probably going to stick with him for the rest of the season. But, just your thoughts on what happened again last week at the Link against the Eagles. Good comeback and all that, but falling short again. Where's this team at now, Mia?
Yeah, it's the fifth loss by 5 points or less. I think that's the reason Doug Peterson is still employed by the Jaguars today. They're not getting blown out. It's a matter of the ball bouncing one way or another. Once upon a time in 2022, they went 5 straight losses in which they lost by 1 possession or less. So I guess that's the thought, is there's fight, there's no quit. But at the same time, ultimately for me, and talk to enough people that I know there is some discontent, and I'm not so sure if it's discontent with coaching or ownership or the GM as much as it is just trying to figure out what the problem is. And I think that's what's going to be most fascinating about this offseason here in Jacksonville, Pete. I have heard every theory under the sun floated at me. I've had colleagues of mine on the beat insist to me that because of his track record and how patient he is, and because, from what I've been told, Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke are entering the final year of their contract deals, that Shad Khan would essentially do exactly what he did in 2020, which was tell Dave Caldwell and Doug Marrone, clean up your mess. If you win, I'll keep you. If not, you're gone. As we all know, they went 1-15 and both were fired. The difference is that Dave Caldwell and Doug Marrone were at very different points in their lives and their careers. Well, yes, I don't think Doug Marrone is ever going to be a head coach again. I know Doug Peterson's not going to be a head coach again because I think Doug Peterson, at least from what I've heard, is probably just going to retire after whenever this thing ends, whether it's this year or next year. And so I'm not so sure both of these gentlemen would sign up for that sort of project. At the same time, I also don't think this would be that sort of complete roster reconstruction that we saw in 2020 in Jacksonville, because there are pieces, clearly, but whatever system they're operating in is not the right system for those pieces. And I think that's ultimately where a lot of the frustration lies, at least from my vantage point. We were told that this would work, and now it's not working. Like, what are we supposed to do? And we're fighting against adversity. We're overcoming everything. I don't know how that the scoop and score by Trayvon Walker stood by the officials. I read certainly the independent pool report.
Yep.
I still don't understand what's a stumble versus a fumble, but all right, cool. Sounds good. But the point is that, and I've had this conversation now with multiple people around the building, I believe that this is more than Doug Peterson. It is more than Trent Baalke. This is something that, and this is an opportunity for a transformational offseason for this franchise, in which you're not going to wipe the slate clean per se, because you're still going to have Trevor Lawrence. You will still have Trayvon Walker, Josh Hines Allen. Those pieces will remain. But it's an opportunity for this franchise to go top to bottom, from the nutrition department to the marketing department, whatever it may be. I view this offseason, whoever is to be leading the Jaguars in 2025, has this opportunity with a stadium of the future already secured, with, when he is playing at his best, a top 10 to 15 quarterback in your possession, and of course an owner who is patient and has the money. You have an opportunity to build this thing. And that is something we have not seen in Shad Khan's tenure as owner of the Jaguars. He has never wiped the slate completely clean. And I am including 2013 after he fired Mike Mularkey and Gene Smith, because even then there are still so many parts in that building that remain from pre-2012 when he bought the team.
All right, Mia, next couple of minutes here. Put your GM hat on, and if you were in charge of hiring the next head coach, should Doug Peterson be let go, who are you going after? Who's your main guy, whether it's college or the NFL? Who would you go after?
Yeah, the two names you're going to hear floated the most. Certainly Ben Johnson is, like, I think every fifth and sixth word that comes out of people in Duval County's mouth these days. Of course, that being the offense coordinator for the Detroit Lions and what he's been able to do. Part of why you will hear Ben Johnson's name, besides the fact that he is orchestrating an offense like we've never seen before, is, of course, the fact that his quarterback's coach is Mark Brunell, the legendary Jaguars quarterback. With Mark return, that's certainly something a lot of people in this town are talking about. The other name that I would like to present, and personally, in my opinion, who I think is the most viable option, is Liam Cohen, the offense coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have a lot of friends who've known Liam for a very long time. He's a guy who came up through the coaching ranks. Look at not only the yeoman's work he's been able to do with Baker Mayfield and a depleted wide receiving core in Tampa, as we saw on Monday Night Football, but you can go back to the fact that he was the one that made a certain quarterback of the Tennessee Titans by the name of Will Levis look like an NFL draft prospect. And once he departed to head back to the National Football League in the Los Angeles Rams in Will Levis's final season, that's when you saw the warts come out in Levis's game. That is when you saw the warts come out in that Kentucky offensive operation. Now, did it work out the second time that Liam went back to Kentucky to be the OC? No, but I would put more of that on the quarterback than I would on him as the play caller. I think he's one of the other sneaky names to watch for in Jacksonville because ultimately he has the McVay rub. Ben Johnson has a weird trajectory of how he's come to be, and it's not necessarily a Shanahan or a McVay rub, but obviously he's been vetted by everybody, and everybody vouches for the offensive system he's created. And so in my estimation, that's the one route that Shad Khan has not gone for in his 13 years as an owner, which is young, progressive offensive play caller to pair with a quote-unquote generational prospect.
Mia, last thing real quick. Wanted to ask about the Dallas Cowboys. James Jones, who I think is on a local show down there in Dallas, and he says he is convinced that Dak Prescott quit. Now, there's a lot of things wrong with the Dallas Cowboys. The trade they made yesterday was flat out stupid. Jerry Jones is living in a parallel universe or something in between the Twilight Zone and Mars. Whatever. You could say a lot of things about the Dallas Cowboys, but Jones went on this, James Jones on TV yesterday went on this whole rant about how he really believes Dak Prescott has quit because of the hamstring injury. Dak Prescott may be a lot of things, but I think it was a tad irresponsible for Eddie to come out and say, without being in the locker room around, say that he quit. How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, I don't, like you said, for me, my biggest takeaway from Dallas right now is that Jerry is still trying to just throw spaghetti against the wall and hope it sticks. Credit to him. I mean, he's got a lame duck head coach, speaking of, coaches in their final year of their contract. Ultimately, this thing was doomed from the start. I don't know if Mike Zimmer was ever going to be the right play caller with that personnel group. And, of course, then you couple that with the injuries to the pass rushers and the cornerbacks, who, of course, have made multiple Pro Bowls between the four of them. And ultimately, this thing was doomed from the start. And look, Dak Prescott has battled. I mean, to come back from the ankle injury a few years ago to be the runner-up. People forget, by most accounts, he was the runner-up for MVP a year ago. This is not a guy who fell off the map, got paid, and now has just decided to head to the beach and just give up. And this is a guy who has battled through, and despite having a defense that can't stop a nosebleed, he's found a way to keep the Cowboys in a lot of football games so far this year. I'm more so curious about the hamstring epidemic from my estimation across the National Football League. If I hear the words hamstring injury one more time, I swear we have more of them this season. And then you couple that and bring this conversation full circle with the DJ Lagway injury on Saturday. Like, I don't know if it's a strength and conditioning thing, a nutrition, is there something in the water? I see more hamstring injuries than ever before.
I'm with you, Mia. Great stuff. As always, thanks so much for taking a few minutes. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon. And good luck to your Jaguars this league. They're home against Minnesota. They can start playing spoiler maybe for some other teams.
Yeah, Sam Darnold has to remember he's Sam Darnold at some point, right?
Come back player of the year. All right, Mia, thanks so much. Enjoy Doug's press conference today. Last thing, your game tonight at ESPN Plus. What is it so we can tune in?
Yep, the JU women, it's their home opener on the basketball hardwood, taking on Edward Waters. Technically, it's an exhibition for Edward Waters since they are an NAIA school, but or HBCU, technically. They're D2 now. Anyways, point is, for them it doesn't count, but for JU it counts. It's their opener to their 2024-2025 season, so I will be on the call at 6:30 p.m. for Swisher Gymnasium.
Sweet. I'll be tuning in. Thanks so much, Mia. All the best. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Mia.
All right, there she is, Mia O'Brien from 1010XL up in Jacksonville, flagship for the Jaguars and the Gators, and also she co-hosts Helmets and Heels every day from 10 to noon. She's on ESPN Plus. She's doing Jacksonville University basketball tonight as well. Well, before we go, Angel, I do want to give a shout out. I got to recut the spot after the show, so I was going to read it live now. Yesterday, we had on our new sponsor, we had Lou DeMuzio on, the president and founder of Ace Technology Advisors. They're big-time tech specialists at ATA. They're able to craft, implement, manage the best and most appropriate solution for your business. They leverage their industry-leading experience and their portfolio of technology partners to improve your best practices and infrastructure. You can check them out. Call them at 888-599-4223. Also on their webpage, www.acetechadvisors.com. And you can email them as well, sales@acetechadvisors.com. They are They do stuff all over the country, and I know outside the country as well. Great stuff. Lou is an unbelievable guy, and the new spot will be up, by tomorrow. But coming up next, Angel, right? It is you. It is you.
Yep. Martinez Company coming up here right after Pete Sheppard Show from 10 to 12 a.m. As we talk with Coach Echeverria from the Wesley Chapel Kings with the new Global Basketball Association League that's starting down here in Florida, along with a couple other states here. And also, he mentioned as well, before we end up taking off, is Senorita Galak, the goalkeeper for USF Women's Soccer, which I said many a times that she should win Goalkeeper of the Year, and she got the honor yesterday. So congratulations to the USF Women's Soccer goalie, because, man, she has played lights out, 12 clean sheets a season. It is absolutely insane, and that's very tough to do, and they are heading to the semifinals.
Way to go, young lady. That is absolutely outstanding. You're right, Angel. Quick break here. I know we got to re-record the spot, so you tell me what you want to do here. I'll sign off, and then you hit the buttons or whatever you need to do. I'm back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. here on the Pete Sheppard Show. Rick Horror, I believe, will be joining us. Also, John Meter-Perel. And somebody else will be joining us, too, but I'm not sure yet. All part of the Pete Sheppard Show. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out on the Coastal Sports Video platform. I'm back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Bye-bye! Right. I'm here. Yep. That's yeah. That's just